Hello and welcome to episode 44 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Graham Raddings. If you have not listened before, then this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zapped 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zapped 64 itself. This week, we're going to be looking at February 1987 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 22 of Zapped 64, along with what was also going on in UK music that month. So Graham, tell us what this episode has in store.
In this ginormous American-style double-doored fridge freezer of an episode, we grab our trusty weapons to go monster smashing and key hunting in the under-detailed dungeon-crawling world of Gauntlet, try not to lose our heads in the hessian horror show of Highlander, and swig a cocktail or two, start a fight, and otherwise live our best drunken eggy lives in Harvey Headbanger. We also play a futuristic game of Ball in Hole, with the gloriously limiting Hyperball, go for a high-speed ground skim in this skier-packed world of Skyrunner, suffer a distinct blocky yellowing at the hands of the blundering Breakthru, and go on another graphically impressive quest for something or other in the top hat and twee world of Heartland. If that lot hasn't filled your freezer compartments and you've got more room in the door panels, we also strike up yet another twee quest for stuff and test our bartering skills in the pretty world of Firelord, develop copycat rage with the blatant Eurydi-clone nonsense of Psycastria, and explore the world of the futuristic post office worker in the decidedly interesting Infodroid. On top of that, we grab our 8-bit bicycles for a dull newspaper delivery round in the predictably poor Paperboy, incur the rotational wrath of Lord Humongous in the uber-shite Storm, before finally practicing our leaping tiger kick, slipping into our ninja costume and running around a castle looking for keys and doors and treasure in Avenger. So many games are packed into this episode, it's bulging more than David Bowie's fragrant tights, which, by the way, is not an aftershave.
That is a lot of games because this issue has a lot of games.
It's chock full of nuts. It is chock full of nuts.
I think this, just as a heads up, this is going to be our Lord of the Rings, I think. Because there's so many games in this issue of Zapped that we're splitting out over 3 episodes. We have to, and we've still got 13 in this one. It's
a much required thing. We haven't got a lot of West Country midgets in this episode, but that said, as far as I'm aware.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Let's see what the games have to bring us. Just before we do move into the games, if you haven't noticed, if you've not heard, if you've not read anywhere, we have started a Patreon just to help us out with server costs and things like that. So if you are interested in supporting us, that would be cool. If you're interested in supporting us in a financial way, that would be even cooler. Head on over to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. You can find us there. And for the price of what? It's a pint of beer? About a pint, isn't it? That price of a pint.
Well, it depends where you are in the country. That's
well, I was going to say if you're in London, it's half a pint.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, but so for the price of some measure of beer, you can help support us. So that would be cool if you could go on over there and help us out. But it's up to you. We leave it in your hands.
Do it.
There you go.
Do it. Do it. Sorry, it's just trying for subliminal. Do it.
Very subliminal. Very.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah. Stop. What have I got to do, Graham? What?
Do it. Do it. Do Zimo.
Well, yeah, you can do it slowly if you wish, and just press that submit button real slow, like.
Real slow, like.
Slow. Ah, so slow. Right. Okay. So that's that out of the way. Let's go on because we've got our first game coming up right now, which Graham, you are going to tell us all about.
I am,
because that game is Glove.
Good old Glove. Good old
Glove.
Good old Glove, otherwise known as Gauntlet.
Gauntlet, yes, go for it.
Gauntlet. Big old arcade Gauntlet. 1985 fantasy-themed hack-and-slash arcade game, which was developed by our friends at Atari and is one of the first real multiplayer dungeon crawlers in that sense. So there are, the core design of Gauntlet is you have 4 players in the arcade. You had 4 players, and you took on the dungeons in the game, and the idea was to explore, pick up the keys, get as much treasure, get the potions, and just go on a good old-fashioned dive through the dungeons hack and slasher. Now, there's a lot of firsts in this arcade game, and it was a very loud arcade, so you couldn't really miss it. It's not in the Dragon's Lair realm of arcades, but it was famous for its kind of sound, it had speech, graphics were kind of cool. It was quite innovative, and the arcade cabinet was a huge 4-player thing. So it had obviously 4 joysticks sort of on the front. Very, very eye-catching arcade game. And this is the Commodore 64 version of it, brought to us by Gremlin Graphics. And this was created by Bob Armour, who also did Deeper Dungeons. That's a Gauntlet Deeper Dungeons. And Basil the Great Mouse Detective. Good pedigree for doing a dungeon crawler. And so this is essentially the Commodore 64 version or conversion of the arcade game. Now, you will have probably come across Gauntlet at some point. You've certainly played the variants up to now because variants of Gauntlet have already been out on the Commodore 64. So Druid is one of those. And we're going to play a couple more in this particular episode of the podcast. The long and the short of it is that there are things that are great to like about this kind of game. And then you have to play the Commodore 64 version and you think, well, okay, are we starting to get to the point when arcade games are getting too big and the Commodore 64 is a 64K 8-bit computer? Is it a little bit small to try and really replicate the grandeur of some of these arcades? And I think that's going to be a problem. We're going to come back to that. So these are essentially maze games, and some of the maze is based around keys, and if you get the keys, you can unlock those, and you're attacked remorselessly, endlessly by enemies, whether they be ghosts or ghouls or creatures or monsters, and it's an onslaught, this game. So when I say dungeon crawler, this is different to the notion of the Dungeons and Dragons style game. So this isn't Master of Magic. This isn't kind of a strategic walk around, this is more of a sort of, it's kind of a mixture between shoot 'em up and dungeon crawl kind of thing. And so that's in of itself isn't a bad thing. So you pick your players, and in the Commodore 64 version, you only can pick from 2 of the 4 players. Now, I feel like I should have written down the 4 things that you could be, but my feeling is that you are a warrior, a Valkyrie, an elf, and a wizard. And I think those are the 4 things that you can be.
Well done, yes. Thor, Questor, Thyra, and Merlin.
Yeah, so you can pick out those 4 things. Now, the idea of picking from a little team is something that comes back to arcade games in a big way. But what you've got to remember, I think, is that these ideas are kind of new at this point. So remember, the arcade is kind of 1985, so we're in 1987, so 2 years later. And we won't go into necessarily right now the kind of the licensing and the weird issues that were around this and who got what and who won what. Part of this is based on a 1983 Atari 8-bit dungeon crawling game called Dandy. That resulted in some kind of legal action. There's parts of this that are a bit like Time Bandit, which is another 1983 game. This game is not in of itself a new concept, but the idea that this was bolted together to create simultaneous cooperative play is kind of innovative in the arcade. Now, you can only play 2 out of the 4 players in the Commodore 64 version, which is a little bit disappointing. And one of the problems that I'm going to come to in a minute about this in being a scaled-down version of an arcade. So, for me, the Commodore 64 version is graphically a little bit inept. The idea of this game, when you play the arcade game, so there's 4 players on the screen at the same time, and it's a bit of a scramble. You're being attacked by all these enemies. The enemies have little spawn points in the arcade, so you have to kind of shoot the enemies and get to the spawn points. You can either shoot them with the weapon that you hold, or you can hand fight them by just standing next to them and kind of battling them. But all the time, you've got an energy that's going down, all the time, down, down, down. And it's on a countdown all the time. So even as a timer in the game, your energy is constantly going down in the game. And you can top that up with potions and food and things like that you find around in the different areas. So the idea is you run around this game shooting a lot, and that's the plan. Now, when you start the Commodore 64 version of this, you get this nice graphic representation of the arcade in that it looks like Gauntlet. It sounds like Gauntlet. The sound by Ben Daglish is excellent. So it does sound like the arcade, and it looks like the arcade when it sort of switches on. The arcade's got kind of a main view, and on the right-hand side, I think you get the different players and their energy bar and that kind of thing. So you get one screen tells you everything you need to know about where you're at, the current timings, and everything else. The problem is this is reliant on 2 of the players at least. So you can only play 2 players. So, and even if you play this, well, you can play this 1 player, but it's kind of a depressing experience on the Commodore 64. So it starts, you sort of go through all the rigmarole. It's a lot of loading and clicking and loading. The tape loader for this was a nightmare. There's lots of loading goes on for this. And then when you finally get to the game and it loads in X amount of levels at the same time, then you start to see problem number 1. This is a cooperative game reliant on the cooperative nature of the game. Without that, it's half of the game it should be. Then you take away the quality of the graphics, you take away the main backgrounds, then you take away the kind of the mass onslaught of enemies that you get and all of the speech and all the other things and the sounds of this game. If you take that all away, which the Commodore 64 version does, you're left with what you've got. And that is emptiness. This game feels empty. So it's like Gauntlet without its soul. And that's a big problem for this, because Gauntlet should not be a soulless adventure where you're romping around. Now, there is one part of this that I liked, in that sometimes it does feel like you've got a lot of sprites coming at you, and the Commodore 64 has famously got 8 hardware sprites. Clearly there's a trick being employed here to deploy more sprites than that on the screen, so you've got that going for you. But I think my main issue with this is that the graphics are kind of badly drawn. They're not great. They're kind of blurry renditions of the arcade, which is understandable on a machine way less capable. There's no speech. There's no real in-game music as such. There's these perfunctory sounds. There's blips and bloops and weirdness. It's not really clear that the idea of the arcade and the panic of the arcade is that you've got a certain amount of time and energy and you've got to try and get through that level to get to the next one. There's exit points on those. You can get the keys and get to them, but it's a scramble. It's a mad dungeon crawling scramble with lots of enemies at you all the time. And you just got to plow your way through and try and stay alive. That's the kind of the crux and the real hook of the game. Without that, in this game, you're kind of wandering around. There's some parts that are just empty. You might get attacked by a few ghosts. Maybe they kind of move in a weird way. There aren't enough frames of animation on the sprites to make them really interesting. And there are sometimes lots of them, but Gauntlet requires more detail and attention than this. And because of those problems, you don't feel inspired to go into battle with anything. And you just stop enjoying the logic of it. It doesn't feel like it's a Gauntlet game. It feels like it's a Gauntlet game without all of the essential parts of Gauntlet. The party aspect of Gauntlet is missing. And because of that, even though there's 512 levels of this nonsense, and I don't see them being, it's quite a big scrolling screen, I get that, but the trouble is, it feels like it's the same thing a lot in this. And you can jump to level 8 if you find the right key combination, or you just wait, because if you just wait and go, all the doors unlock, and go to the sort of, you can skip to certain levels, you have to go past the loading again. But it doesn't really feel, other than you get a different kind of enemies, including one which is pretty much death instantaneously to you and anyone else you're playing with. It just feels like the game's missing so much of actual Gauntlet that it's just a shadow for myself. And what really frustrates me is that games do this better. Druid's a better Gauntlet variant than Gauntlet ever was. And it's just good game design. And all it took was a little bit of thinking about how you represent Gauntlet to the people that are playing it. Now, this was full price as well. And I have to say, I find this full price version of Gauntlet lacking in key areas. And for me, on a replay, it was a real snoozer. And I didn't like it at all. I think it's such a tragic waste of a license for a game that could and should have been a lot better. I know you only got 2 joystick ports on a Commodore 64, but you know what? Make the most of that. And there are games with speech and other things that have far less in them than this. This didn't require a lot of the Commodore 64's graphic capability in my book. This is just badly put together in a rush, and it feels like a bit of a cash grab. So I was unhappy with it. But what about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Let's just agree and move on, shall we? Yeah, it's what we said about Dragon's Lair. Is this a port that should have happened? And, I could see why it is, because Gauntlet's massive at this point in the arcades and there's lots of money for it and people want to play it at home. And I get all that. Yep, I get it. Because, around this period, as you've stated and as we stated before, arcades, they're really starting to draw ahead of 5-year-old 8-bit machines. And I know this was 85, but even by that point, a bespoke arcade cabinet with everything built for it to just run this singular game was always going to be a hard sell to put that into Commodore 64. And so what you've got here is you really are trying to squeeze a skyscraper into a house, which is the lesser-known version of a quart into a pint pot. So it's state-of-the-art arcade game, 4-player, great graphics, fun components like shooting the food, great and varied speech, and so on and so on. It is a huge game. Like you said, it's loud. You'd walk in an arcade and you'd instantly be drawn to it. There's no missing it. It's massive and loud. And there was usually a big crowd of people around it because of it had this draw. And then you have the 64 version. And we spoke similarly when we talked about Galavan. It attempts to replicate the arcade machine. And, if you squint, it kind of does. But it does that by stripping out all the surrounding sound effects, the gloss, and downgrading it to 2 players only. And by doing this, similar to what you said, it lays bare the actual core of Gauntlet, which turns out to be running around some mazes, hammering a fire button and finding an X exit and moving on.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself, for 512 of them, is quite dull.
Well, without the deeper dungeons. And, the arcade was based on the 68,000 chipset. So it's based on the same chipset as Amiga and Sega Mega Drive, and so it's a 68010, I think. The old C64 is just not going to really do it, is it? It's not going to cut that.
No, it's 3-4 years older, so it's got no chance. And so the graphics have taken a massive downgrade. They're okay, so it just feels really incredibly lackluster. I don't think this is a problem with the conversion. Just that the machine is just. I disagree with you. I don't think the machine is actually capable of doing this justice. I don't think it is.
I think it does what they can, but no.
Yeah, I don't think you just can't. And some people may have enjoyed it at the time. You enjoy it because it's Gauntlet in your home, and you've got a sibling or something. You might get some enjoyment that's playing it in a 2-player. But in 1-player, revisiting it, it's slow, it's dull, and even playing it 2-player, don't feel much better. And also as well, from a technical point of view, your ability to shoot, you don't feel fast enough, don't feel responsive enough to cope with all the enemies. I mean, the number of sprites on the screen is impressive, but you can't cope with them. There's too much.
No.
You're just getting surrounded all the time. It feels empty and barren in comparison to its arcade big brother, really. And I get it. Around the periphery, like you said, the Ben Daglish music is very nice. A little hook in your music. It looks like Gauntlet when it's loading up. So that nice title screen representation. The character select screen is nice. The loading is intrusive. But yeah, it just, once you start playing, it lacks everything that makes you want to play the arcade.
Sadly, it does.
Yeah. Elf shot the food and all that sort of thing. And it's all just lacking, and I don't know. Yeah. It was I think like you, just going back to it, I think I had it on tape back then.
Same. I had it on tape. I don't have it on disc.
And that massive tape loading that, 8, because it was 8 levels a pop, wasn't it?
Yep.
So there's 512 of them. I mean, that's what, 64 loads?
Absolutely. No, I bought the Deeper Dungeons as well because I felt like I should. I did the first deal. It's kind of DLC, isn't it? Really?
Quite literally, that is. Please, sir, can I have another?
It is, and it is, and I don't know why.
Please, US Gold, can I have another?
I think I really wanted to like Gauntlet because I felt invested.
Everyone did.
I felt invested in the C64 version. I bought the original. I was a big arcade fan of Gauntlet, and I really had. Based on all the preamble that we'd seen in some of the magazines, I'd kind of fallen for the hype a bit. But as we're going to discover with some of the arcade conversions as they start to unfold on these next few episodes of the podcast, there's some real shit. And Gauntlet, there is, and Gauntlet is the beginning of that shit. And well, not the beginning, but Gauntlet is the.
I don't think Gauntlet. It's a 93% it got as well. I can see why at the time. I get it.
Yeah,
it's a big thing, trying to fit it all in, but I just don't think it warrants a revisit now. It stands up in any way.
Absolutely. There's better games that do this better games.
And you were bang on just saying, if you're going to play something like this, go play Druid, which, especially in 2-player, is much better.
I think to myself, Gremlin graphics aren't doing very good arcade ports, and then we hit Elite games, and I'm like, eee. But we'll come to that. To that.
And there are other ones as well. So, but we'll get to them. But let's leave these dungeons.
Yes,
because they're bereft.
And the elf shot the bloody food anyway. So let's just get out of here.
He always did. He did. Who did you always play, by the way, in the arcade? Did you always?
That was the dude with the axe.
Oh, you were Thor?
Yeah, of course.
All right, okay.
Why did you play?
Thyra.
Of course you did. You bloody with your lady parts and your swords.
Always did do it. It's like I always played Tyrus Flare in Golden Axe.
Oh, it's just, what is wrong with you? But what did you do with Final Fight? That's the question.
Do you want the list?
I was Hagar.
I don't ever really think I played much of Final Fight.
There wasn't a female character. If there'd have been like,
there you go then. Was it Cody and Tom? Was it Cody in Final Fight?
Cody, Hagar, and Ryu. I don't know who the other one was.
I don't think it was Ryu.
Probably wasn't.
Oh, probably won't. I want to say Tommy.
Well, let's call him Tommy.
Let's call him Tommy. Maybe it was Terry Strong.
That would have been a Final Fight to remember.
Oh, could you imagine a Minder sideways scroller? Sideways scrolling beat 'em up.
With the music.
Terry Strong. And actually, a better one would be the Sweeney. You play Reagan or Terry Strong.
Well, the thing is, that's Narc. That would be like Narc, the arcade. If it
would be.
That would
the British version of it.
That would be such a cool arcade if it was the Sweeney, but it was just Narc. With Regan and Terry Strong just missiling clowns. I'd play that.
Anyone would play that, let's face it.
And as just as an interesting tie it together thing, we know there's a Narc version for the Commodore 64. We're bound to come across that later down the line in many moons' time.
True, some point.
And we'll both be like,
we need some drugs, even though winners don't.
Losers use them, and we'll be losers that day, that's for sure.
Massive losers. Right, that's enough. That's enough talking about Gauntlet and whatever Terry Strong in Golden Axe. That'd be ace. Let's move along. Move along. Into There Can Be Only One.
Oh,
Highlander.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah, so we're in Highlander. So yes, there can be only one. And thank God there is only one of this game, because this one-on-one sword fighting game is way more horrific than any beheading in the film itself. Let's put it that way. I'm just going to, there you go, cards on the table. Anyway, this is, so Highlander is Ocean, have got the Highlander license, because, everyone's looking for licenses all over the place. And based on their Miami Vice and Knight Rider releases, I'm sure this is going to be ace, but it's not. So what are you going to do? This is 3 scenes from the film, is what we are presented with here, all accessed by a different load, which is weird. It means you can just load the final scene in. There's no continuation of scenes. It's weird. It's stupid. So... I don't understand.
I'm going to call that from here on in Highlander logic.
Yeah, you just want to skip the game? Do it. It doesn't matter. Just go fight the Kurgan.
Highlander logic. It's the quickening. It's the quickening.
It's the somethingering. It's the quickening of game development. You don't want to play the first 2 parts? Skip them.
Go and stand Highlander on the beach and listen to the sound of deers.
Is that in the film?
Yeah, that's the bit. Right, okay. That's the bit where he gets the quickening.
Oh, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's just a word, isn't it?
Yes, because the film makes no sense like this crap game.
So the first of these 3 loads sees you facing off against Ramirez back in historic Scotland. The second sees you fighting Fizia in the underground parking lot.
Back in historic Scotland.
No, I said back in historic Scotland, yeah.
May as well be.
Fizia in the underground parking lot from that's the opening scene, isn't it? From the film. Whilst the third section sees you take on the Kurgan on the rooftops of New York for the final prize, which is the knowledge.
What, is that like a London cabbie?
That's what I've just put. Why you'd want to cut people's heads off throughout history just to become a taxi driver in London is beyond me. But there you go.
The knowledge. That's why they do it. I've wondered why they did it. Now I know. That's why it's so hard to be a London cabbie.
So many headless cabbies. You just, you
Dangerous.
can learn the quickest way from, King's Cross to
Pall Mall.
To Pall Mall, yeah. Anyway, Martin Galway presents us with a version of It's Kind of Magic, which is okay, but it's not up there with his best. The visuals are all right, ish. But the perspective of the background is weird. The sprites are not bad, but the perspective of the background is weird, like it's going up a slope whilst the fights takes place in a standard 2D view. It's like a really crap theatre backdrop, is what I thought. That's what it looks like. It's like someone's tried to do forced perspective in the back, and it just looks all wrong. See, this is your energy bar style fighting. So you have an energy bar at the bottom that once gets down to 0 through taking too many hits or doing too many misses, just basically leaves you open to having your head cut off. And, when I describe it like this could be an okay take on the film. Focuses in on the fights. Because you don't want to focus on Christopher Lambert's acting.
No.
But unfortunately, the fighting is slow and dull. There's no real feeling of impact at all, aside from a bar going down. It's really unresponsive to keep your interest. And even to play, it feels like a dull non-entity of a game. It's nothing. There's nothing to this. It's just garbage. You just walk back and forth, and it's again one game that you can just keep doing one hit, and it will eventually just wear the other down, and you can chop their head off. The problem is, as soon as you chop their head off, you just fight them again because you have to turn it off, and load in the next game, next level. There's no connection. If it loaded the next level, all right, fair enough, but it doesn't. You have to load it manually, separately, which is stupid.
Yes.
Stupid.
Yes.
So this is just garbage. If I want to hit people with swords, I'm going to play night games.
Yeah.
Not this. Yeah, night games, you have 6 variants of hitting people with stuff that are all better than this, because this is just rubbish. And just on a final note, because I don't want to really say much more about it, because it's kicking a dead headless corpse while it's down. What is that title screen? Who is that on the title screen?
It's all kinds of wrong.
Because I didn't recognise them.
No.
For those who don't think, I'll put when I on Twitter or something, or in wherever, I will put the picture up for the Highlander loading screen, because that ain't Christophe Lambert. I don't know who it is, but it isn't him. This is crap and utterly shit. So I don't know. Did you get anything from this adaptation of the highly regarded film Highlander?
This is 3 levels of crap in one crap sword fighting crappy game with crap graphics, and it's crap. Dull. I've put uninspiring backgrounds with really crap sound effects. Music was all right.
Yeah, the backgrounds are crap.
Yeah.
Sprites were not too bad.
Squat is what the sprites are. Squat. And he's got the wrong sword. Because, well, he has. Because Nash is the character that you play. And for the first Scottish Highlands part, yes, he has a kind of big broadsword. But for the rest of the movie, he has a samurai, like a samurai. So famously, has a white
katana or something.
A white-handled katana, which you don't really get the idea of in this game. And that's the key problem with it. This isn't based on the film. This is based on a bit of the film, and the bit that's not the best bit. What annoyed me here, and it's what's annoyed me about other licensed games of this type, is that this, as much as it's a nonsensical bullshit story in Highlander, you've got clearly defined characters, clearly defined roles, battles, scenes, enemies that transcend time and space, but certainly time.
Taxi drivers.
You've got a whole... It doesn't just have to be about the sword fighting. Yes, that's an incumbent part of being a Highlander, is that at some point you've got to fight somebody to the death, chop their head off, and everything else. But the film has a whole story arc, characters that go across a whole of time. You know, there's a sense of loss in the film. As much as it's crap, there's a sense of loss, not just of the money you spent to get in the theatre to see it, but of the fact that, you know, that he's an immortal that has lived throughout all these lives, and all these people have died around him, and he can't die. So all of that kind of stuff is completely lost, but it's a tragedy because you could have incorporated some of those ideas into this. It didn't have to be a crappy one-on-one fighting game, which is superseded by Barbarian in every possible way that it could be. To the point where you even get to chop somebody's head off in Barbarian, which this game doesn't do, which is the key thing. That's what you've got to do in the film, is chop the guy's head off. Otherwise, it's all...
his head off.
Irrespective
but it's
of
rubbish.
Irrespective of all those things. It doesn't feel like you achieve, do, or become the Highlander when you do those things. It just feels like you've moved on to another level of the same thing. And it's slow. It's so slow and ploddy and annoying. It's a disgrace to whittle all of that information that you had, which seems to be because this is an Ocean game, isn't it? Which seems to be the Ocean MO, to take all of the amazing things you could have done and compress them into something that's so pedestrian and lame. It's a disgrace. This is awful, this game. It's a tragic waste of a license yet again. Ocean's responsibility yet again. The only decent thing, and I say decent with a bit of a pinch, is the music. The rest of it is completely forgettable. It's just such a stupid waste of time. It's annoying. So, you know, and thank God this was the only one. They only ever made this one version of Highlander because they knew full well that nobody would ever approach this license again after that. Crap. Absolute crap. What a waste of my life and time even revisiting this. And what annoyed me was I knew it was crap when I replayed it. So anyway, it didn't... You know what? I try to go into these replays that we do for the podcast with a real open mind, thinking, you know what? Maybe my memories of this are different. I'm going to come into it with a fresh perspective, and sometimes the games really do surprise you, and sometimes they don't. And this was an occasion where the game simply made me realise how crap it was to begin with. So sod off with this nonsense. And I have to say, this is yet another nail in Ocean's coffin as far as I'm concerned, because so far I ain't seen them do great stuff. You know, outside of their external developers, which may come in time. There's some good stuff, but at the moment they're licensing for films and stuff like that. Woeful.
Yeah.
Awful. Crap. What did it get in Zapped, by the way?
30%.
Well, that's more than it deserved. I would have given it a lot less.
10% a fight.
I'd have given it less. I'd have given it like 4%. I think that you could have got Flash Gordon, which was £3, and one of the 3 levels was better than this entire game. So it's essentially, it's just, you know, if you're going to do parallels of cost and effectivity and all that, anyway, no more now. Goodbye, Highlander, you piece of shit.
On that note, I feel like what angered you.
It did, because these licensed games, because this is a big license, they're doing my head in. What happened between Rambo and this? I mean, Rambo wasn't perfect, but Rambo was a license. It's way better than this.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So,
different programmers and stuff, I guess.
Something happened. I think they just don't, it's lack of care. They don't care. And I think that upsets me a bit. I have to say, it does. Yeah,
they could have done something decent here, like you said. There's an opportunity. The C64 can do a decent fighting game.
Yes, they could do a fighting game. They could do, even if they did this like Flash Gordon, if they did it in that kind of 3-part, you're wandering around the city trying to find stuff about your past. You play a level where you're in the past and you've got to figure out, you know, this could have been Biggles. Biggles isn't that different. It's a 3-level thing. There's ways to do it. There's ways it could have been done. It didn't have to be this nonsense. It did not have to be this way. It's it's a shitstorm.
There you go. That's Highlander. We don't like Highlander.
No.
Maybe we'll like the next one, because that begins with a H. It's a double H'er. And that game is Harvey Headbanger. That is a weird old game.
There's a lot of H's in this game.
Heavy hardbanger. Very
heavy hardbanger. I'm sure we'll play that version.
Graham, tell us all about heavy hardbanger.
Programmed by Kevin A. Now, I want to say that surname's pronounced Mountain, because it's Moughtin, so that has got to be Mountain. Anyway, copyright Richard Hughes, according to the game. So you and your rival, Hamish Hypaball, check out the H's on this. You just like to fight in this game, and the more drunk you are with your fighting, the better. So in this game, you basically kind of wobble your way. You're kind of a rotund little sprite thing, wobbling your way around they say it's a climbing frame. I say kind of a grid of squares, wobbling around. And as you kind of flobble around the screen, seemingly with no real control, because it's a bit weird, the control of this game, you've got to try and surround your opponent. So it's got to surround them, and as you roll over the grid squares, of which there's 48 squares, they kind of change colour. If you manage to outmaneuver your opponent, you create cocktails. So if you draw a sort of square around them, cocktails appear, and you can drink those cocktails, get more drunk, and then the idea then is eventually you can get more and more drunk and beat your opponent in this kind of battle, this ongoing battle. You can do this 10 times over the space of this particular battle, and if you do that, you win. So that's the game, kind of a drunken climbing frame battle simulator. Weird. It is.
We haven't seen one of them before.
No. If you bump into your opponent at any point, you stagger out of control and you kind of wibble around the place, which you will do a lot because it's really hard to avoid sometimes, the alternative player. So I found this a little bit, graphically, it was all right. Now, if someone said to you, describe me what it would look like if you give me a visualization of a Harvey Headbanger type character on a climbing frame, you'd probably imagine this. It's kind of an egg-shaped thing flopping around. The graphics aren't terrible. It's just weird. The game concept is weird, and the idea of it's weird. So I felt it was the whole thing felt over complex for what it actually was, and because of that, it kind of felt weirdly hard to control. The music, which is Ben Daglish, is just not quite friendly enough to the game. It's kind of the whole thing kind of feels like you're not quite in control of your player, which means that when you're fighting, it doesn't really feel like you're fighting. So it's kind of an egg people game, and I've used the egg word, but no, so bingo's just been called. But it's kind of an egg based game, and it was fun for $1.99 for 2 players, because it's $1.99 at the end of the day, so it's kind of cheap. I never came across it back then. It wasn't one that came across on my radar at all. I didn't get on with it and I replay this at all that much. I just found never felt like I was controlling the main person. Just kind of bounced around and landed on a cocktail now and again and got drunk, which is kind of a cocktail straw thing at the side, gives you an indication of how drunk you're getting. I just never really felt like I was really getting anywhere or doing much of anything. It just didn't appeal to me. So I think it's the idea of being a drunk egg that does appeal to me in many ways, but not in this game. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. For £2, I think it's an interesting concept. I think of what it is, because I think in a 2-player this would be really good fun if you both knew what you were doing and you were both playing along and you knew how to control this thing. In 1 player, it gets repetitive quite quickly because the computer opponent is a bit just weird and you just keep banging into each other. So I've actually said they look like Weebles. That's what they kind of look like to me. But
for those that don't know what a Weeble is, they were little toys that came out in the late 70s.
Who suspiciously look like painted eggs.
Yeah, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. They were weighted eggs.
Weighted eggs. So, yeah, like you said, you flip around this sort of climbing frame, turn in your squares, and I couldn't quite get my head around it because the one who had the blue outfit turned them red. I was like, it's kind of like odd, but it was because it wasn't based on the colour of the outfit, it was based on the colour of the braces. Yeah. Because obviously that's the more clearer thing to see, not the big chunk of blue that you are. So that was kind of weird. The whole notion of getting just more and more drunk is an odd one. But, once I got my head around this and the notion of trying to circle your opponent to sort of, kind of like, it's like Snake or something, isn't it? It's Tron and those kind of things where you try and force your opponent, where you try and surround someone and force them into something. This just takes out the way that they force them into it. You're just trying to surround them with your colour. I'd like
to see a version of Tron where there's just egg people. Instead of the cycles of Tron, those bikes, just an egg rolling around.
randomly because eggs don't roll very well.
Sark going, put him in the games with the egg people. You sure about that, Sark? The light cycles and the discs. No, never mind that. Egg people all the way.
The light eggs.
Yes, exactly.
Or the discs of eggs of Tron. So, do you know what this reminded me of as well? I mean, it's
Tron
way
with eggs.
later, but Tron with egg.
Eggy Tron.
Was, because you have to colour the board, don't you? It's all about getting more colour on it. And it was Splatoon sprung to mind.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to colour an area with your paint or whatever. So that kind of reminded me a little bit of this. And the problem was, like I said, just in one play, it just gets tedious. I would think that, if you bought this for £2 back then, and again, like Gauntlet or something like that, you had a sibling, someone to sit down with, you both kind of grasp that concept. I think this would pass a rainy Sunday afternoon for me, because it would be a good laugh, I think, because it's crazy concept, it's stupid idea, its notion of being drunk would appeal to you as a 13, 14-year-old, and I think that kind of stupidity is where this sort of lies. It's a two-player game, it's okay, but I think as a one-player game, it's just a bit, it's not there. It's not crap. I can't call this crap because I actually quite like the idea. I don't think it's crap. I think it's all right. I just think it's strengthened. It's two-player, but it is what it is. £2. I'd forgive this, but it is bloody weird.
Yeah.
It's one of the more odder concepts we've come across.
Yeah. Drunken eggs is always a good thing. We played Eggy Joust. Now we're playing Eggy Drunk. It's all good. It's all eggy. It's all good.
Drunken Eggy Joust. We need to combine them.
See, I think what we're saying really is that if you add more egg to a game, it gets better. So Eggy Highlander would have been way better, wouldn't it?
As would Gauntlet.
There can be only one egg. It's true, they can.
Just running around mazes as an egg. Shooting eggs. Shooting other ghost eggs.
Yes, gegs, as we like to call them. Yes.
Gegs. All right.
Anyway, yes.
So here we go. Heavy Headbanger. Harvey Headbanger. It's weird. It's weird, and I don't think I can draw a conclusion on it really. Just can't. It's too odd. Eggy.
It's very eggy.
It's eggs on a climbing frame, getting drunk.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Yes.
What were they smoking?
Front row. Finally.
The game you always wanted but didn't know.
Yes.
Eggs on a climbing frame.
The thing is, we've got a pub called...
Getting arsehole.
What's the pub called?
Sideways egg.
Exactly what's going to happen there. Drunken eggs. It's all part of it.
Well, we do have the children's climbing frame outside in the back.
We do, and we need to think of the range of eggy cocktails because I'm feeling it's lacking. So don't worry, I'll be resolving that situation.
Oh dear, eggs on the beach.
Egg driver.
It's going to go on a while. Let's stop now.
Do it now, quick.
Oh no, yeah, right. That's it. Harvey Headbanger. Let's move on. We've got another H game. You wait for one H game, and then three come along in a row.
Say they're all in a row. What's going on? Oh God,
I put them that way. So this is Hyperball. So this is a full-priced game. This was an Odin game, isn't it? An Odin graphics to Odin graphics. So what is Hyperball? So deep in the future, humans' desire for sport is still with us. As in any good sci-fi story, this game revolves around throwing a ball in a hole. See Battlestar Galactica and a host of others.
Oh yeah, they have that game in Battlestar Galactica, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah. I bet you look at any kind of futuristic sports game and it's all throwing balls in holes.
What is it called in Battlestar Galactica? I'm going to have to think about that.
I don't know. Speedball's another example of this. So that's throwing a ball in a hole.
Yes, it is, yes.
Anyway, but this is one team against another. This is the Hawks versus the Vipers in the Odin Super Cup. And there's a lot of front end to this. You've got quite a lot of choice to this game. So once you've chosen a 1 or 2 player game, you get to pick your team of 3 people who will be able to throw a ball in a hole from a choice of 10. Those 10 are Dwayne Mucus, Alex Grunt, Fred Flange, Fergie Fuzzle, Horse Codeine, Stu Gobwinge, Yaki Cronkite, John Machine, Norman Bates, and racially inappropriate One Tin Lung.
Oh, dear me.
Yep.
They have to go there at the end, didn't they? Things. They could have just had good futuristic names.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, each of these characters has 3 stats that differ in strength, speed, and agility. They might do something in the game, but it's hard to tell. Once picked, you switch to the game itself, and again, we get more razzmatazz cheerleaders raised from the floor. So what you see is basically a side-on view of an arena. Down the left and right are like sort of electric sort of particles, sort of electric force field on either side of the screen. In the middle is a big pole with a sort of the hole, the sort of the container where the ball is going to get thrown into. In the background is the stadium. So what happens is from the floor, 6 cheerleaders raise up and dance around to a little tune, and then they go back down, and then up from those same holes, the 3 players for each side appear, and so then they fly off. You have one person on the floor while you have one person flying around the jetpack on either side of the center pole. So the ball, once at that point, is flung into the screen and you have to chase it down. You only control one person at a time. So one of either the running guy at the bottom or where the ball is, you will control that person. The other person controls the other one, and you're trying to bounce it off each other, pass it to your other players, and trying essentially to throw the ball in the hole. And that's it. You fly around if you're on the jetpack. You go on the floor if you are on the, your guy on the floor. You can't hold on to the ball for more than, I think it's like 3 or 4 seconds. Otherwise, you give a penalty away, and then the other team gets to throw at to throw the ball in the hole, and that's it really. And it's just score as many balls in the hole as you can. It's got nice presentation. The visuals are decent enough in like that medium res style, and there's some nice music and bits around the game, and picking the players and all that presentation stuff still very nice, but the game gets real samey real quickly and just gets very dull. The speed at which you throw it is way too slow. So there's like you press the fire button and there's a bit of animation as you sort of throw it. It just needed to ping. It just needed to go, because so often I'd be aiming at the pole and throwing it, and it would just take too long to throw it. So it needed to be more pacey, like Speedball will do down the line, or Speedball 2. It's just too slow to really engage you. It's a shame, really, because there's a decent sort of little futuristic sports game here, and the 3-on-3 action is a nice idea. It's just missing pace and missing a sort of sense of urgency to really rope you in, and it just gets very, very dull very quickly, and I just got bored quite quickly of it. What about you?
I found this game similar to the Super Bowl 20 problem, in that it's based around one game where you can change very limited parameters. Can't play in a league, can't do anything. You can only play this one game. You can choose from the 10 players, but got this one game. So it's a futuristic sports game. It's Quidditch essentially. It's Harry Potter's Quidditch without the couple of the parameters, but it's Quidditch.
I guess so.
Flying around and throwing a ball in a like you say, throwing a ball in a hole. I think the presentation and the graphics and the sound are great. On the surface, this game looks the part. And if it had held up to the promise, because it's the same guy that coded Mission AD and Robin of the Wood.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And so you can you're playing the game between the Vipers and the Hawks. It all sounds great. It does look the part. This has all the trappings of what could have been something really good. And had it had your ability to choose a little bit more of the parameters, a bit like that basketball game that we played, where you could choose like lots of the parameters to really make the game not unique,
2 on 2.
Yeah, to make it more interesting. Yeah, because it didn't have that. It just means that the game's never really going to change, and I think that's where the boredom comes in, because it's whichever way you swing it. Yes, there are a few variations of player that you can have. You've got 10 to choose from, and you can choose 3. But that very quickly is going to... And I don't know about you, but I found the enemy team, but the opposing team really easy. Scoring goals in this and beating them was really easy, whichever team combination you chose. So I played this multiple times, hammered the team multiple times. I never lost. And so I just thought, you know what, there's a lot to like in the presentation, the graphics, the style. Everything's there. What it lacked was substance, and the substance is what really would have driven this to be a really classically great game, which is what comes late with Speedball and things like that. This is Speedball essentially in a different kind of layout, but Speedball had the leagues, and it had the different players, and it had your ability to do stuff and get better at things, and all of those things that this game does not have is what it requires to have been good. So what you end up with is the surface, but none of the substance, and I think that's such a shame, because it could have been great. So I felt like it was a bit of a letdown because of that. A futuristic sports game with jetpacks should not be dull, but this was, sadly.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I thought, and you bang on with it. Lack of depth, a league, progression, anything, a cup, even if you're playing through a cup.
It should have had those things. If it had had them, wouldn't it have been amazing to be the champion of the Hyperball? Wouldn't it have been great to win a cup?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been hard to just apply that logic. 2 or 3 more teams. 180 managed it. I know it's a daft comparison between a darts game in a pub and this, a futuristic sports game, but just having something with 3, even if it's just 3 players of multiple abilities, I don't see how those things are missing really, because all the logic's there. Anyway, It isn't in this game, and that's such a tragedy because I think Odin really they're a bit like, they remind me a little bit of like an alternative version of Palace. They're like the games are similar in style and look and feel and graphic quality and sound, and they go to all those production lengths. But this just is vacuous at the end of it all, which is such a tragedy. So I feel for them, really. It's missing the vital parts.
Yeah. No, yeah, bang on. Yeah, that's what I thought. 36% it got as well. There you go. So I think it's maybe a bit harsh, but...
I think that's a bit harsh. I think that's harsh.
Yeah.
I would have put this in the 60s. Now, presentation-wise, this has got a lot going for it. The graphics are nice in this, and the way it plays, the controls are between the three plays that you control. It's kind of slick. It's nice. I mean, as much as the ball, for me, at this age of 48, was a blurry, hypertronic stain on my screen before I'd even realised what had happened. That didn't matter. It was still, all the elements were there, just not the parts that really are important for a game like that. So sad.
Yeah. Depth. It needed depth.
Depth is needed.
Yeah, depth was needed. Right, there you go. That's Hyperball. We've got loads more games still coming. So let's quickly move along. To get into our next one. Graham, what's it like being a Skyrunner?
So this Ace, yeah. Well, it should be Ace. This is Ian Martin, isn't it? It's the guy that made Ace and later Ace 2 and Star Wars. He actually made the Star Wars conversion on the C64 as well. Crazy.
Did he?
Yeah, did, yeah. And the weird thing is here, so this is a weird story in this game. So in the 24th century, some people have just left Earth and colonized a planet called Moloch. Load of Molochs. Sadly, they are living in horrible conditions and unhappy to the point of rioting and violence. So they are behaviourally controlled by a drug called Sky. Now, I really wanted that to be Skier, like the Icelandic yogurt-based thing, but it's not. It's Sky. Anyway, hey-ho. So they're controlled by their government, essentially, and Sky is harvested only on Moloch, and so there's absolutely no similarity to the spice melange in the film Dune, which is found on the planet Arrakis. So there's no similarity to it whatsoever. So they've got this yogurt product that's found on one planet only. Anyway, so Earth discover this state of issues and affairs, and so they attack Moloch with their runner squads. So guess what? You're one of these Skyrunners, one of your runner squads. Their elite attack mercenaries. So Moloch and the Sky are harvesting the Sky on the planet. It's defended by towers, missiles, and generally things that are going to try and kill you. You've got to fly in low and fast in an attempt to destroy the defense towers. This earns you money. It doesn't really matter because the game is it is lightning fast, so fast in fact that you won't live long enough to earn much money. So if you think of the style of the look and feel of this, think Space Harrier, Buck Rogers, that kind of. We played a game similar to this where he was a ground skimming vehicle, and I couldn't remember the name of the game.
Dark Tower,
that's the one. So similar, very similar to Dark Tower. So you can shoot things, but you won't be alive long enough to really enjoy the shooting part. And it plays out like that kind of Dark Tower Space Harrier type thing. The main problem is the graphics are fast and it's really super fast paced, and the graphics are okay looking. It's just dull. This game is dull. You get one life, one single old life, and as soon as that's gone, dead. And I've said it before, these ground skimming super fly shoot 'em up things, they're all well and good technically. It's a nice technical presentation of stuff, but you've got to make it playable and you've got to be able to have fun with it. And this is neither of those things. It's kind of just erratic at best. It's fast to the point when you're going to just never really get that far and do much. And that might be my slow reaction times, but my reaction times are not what they used to be. I get that. But, this is a super low sort of flying, skimming shooter game, in the realm of the kind of approach to games, that idea of that kind of game, a Space Harrier style sort of thing without the kind of Space Harrier in it, without that kind of thing. I just felt like, for me, because it was dull, it's just flying fast towards stuff is not in of itself a great experience. At breakneck speed maybe, but it just didn't feel like it was really that interesting. And this story, and as we've said before many times, they've wrapped this complex Dune-inspired story of skier yogurt product on a planet and all the rest of the nonsense. The long and the short of it was, it's dull. And that's a bit unforgivable in a game that probably shouldn't have been. And it's dull because it's so hard, not dull and unplayably fast. Not dull because it's not technically clever. So for me, it was a switch off. It was a Sky run off. But what about you?
Yes, you I'm probably in the same ballpark once again. This is a very decent 3D shooter. I thought it borrowed from the Spectrum's 3D Death Chase, and
Never played that.
And also the did you get past the first section where you just fly in the plane? Did you get past that bit?
Yeah, I was flying for ages.
Did you get to the speeder bikes?
Yeah. Again, same lane problem.
Yeah, so that was obviously Return of the Jedi. And also as well, by the way, the planet that they're on is actually called Nabe Moloch, which is actually Colombian backwards.
So it's just Moloch then.
So, well, if you think of it being Colombian backwards, it's, we're not saying anything about Latin America as a drug haven or anything.
Yeah, because they're all addicted to Sky, which is cocaine, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a bit like, when I read that, I was looking at it, that looks familiar, and I just turned it around and went, oh, it's Colombian. Okay.
Why didn't they just say what it was, though? You can have space cocaine. It's fine.
Just make a name. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. It's like you said. So there's the three stages, isn't there? You shoot the defense towers. Once that's done, you fly your scout bike. If you fly your scout bike, you then get 3 lives, which is stupid because you only get 1 life at the start. For the main drop ship. It's ridiculous. And then if you get past them, you take out the harvesters of the drugs, and then you repeat. The visuals are really nice. That 3D effect is very solid and very fast and very good. And the sprite design is really, really cool and look really the part, and everything looks ace and stuff. No pun intended. But it's too hard. It's too punitive. Way too often I was trying to line up with those bloody towers and shoot them and then be dead before I knew it because one had shot me from off the line, from off the screen or whatever. And it was just getting ridiculous. So it got repetitive really quickly. And it's such a shame because this could have been really interesting. And a bit of sort of player leniency. Shoot wider. You don't have to shoot right from the middle of your bloody Skyjet to hit those towers. You have to be right dead center. And because it's so twitchy, getting dead center at pace to avoid the bullets coming in at you is just painful after a while. And so I just turned it off, which is a shame because when I first booted up, I thought, oh, this looks good. And I was thinking, oh, maybe we found a bit of a hidden gem here. And then I, cracked the gem open and it was full of egg. But there you go.
Crap. Yep, crap.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame, really. 58%. Yeah, about right.
It's worth looking out for the graphics, I think. Because I tell you what, they were better than the space area graphics that we'll come across later, because that's just shit. But
yeah, they are. The visuals in this, it's a really good 3D effect. One of the best we've seen so far.
Yeah, I'd say so. And it did remind me of that tower game.
I was thinking Dark Tower as well.
Yeah, there was parts of it we liked about that as well. It's fast. This game. It plays well. It just lacks. Again, I think, and honestly, it lacks the depth. They got this technical marvel working, and we're like, there you go. And it's like, well, no, you need a bit more than that. You can't just say it's going to have those things in the inlay of the cassette or the disc, whatever. You've got to put a little bit more thought into it than that.
Yeah, because it doesn't take long as well to go through the 3 sections and then just repeat again.
No.
And at least a repetitive, if you do that, because...
And that's some logic we're going to come across again and again now, is that, you get to level 3, you're finished, and it's back to the beginning, you're like, hang on. No, this is you pay good money for this rubbish, so... Yeah,
the tenner, wasn't it?
That's what I mean. So I wouldn't have been happy if I've paid a tenner for that, I've got to say. It is, that would have been a kick in the mollocks, I think.
My Latins.
Yeah. Oh, me mollocks! Right in the old space mollocks.
Absolutely. No more Sky for you.
I wanted that to be skier so bad. Oh, it would have taken us
would have been good.
A little R. One little R.
Is it Sky? It's just Sky, isn't it?
Yeah, Sky.
Yeah, it would have been
the drug Sky. Skier would have been better. Those Icelandic skiers.
I know. Ski yogurt. Anyway, there we go. That's Skyrunner. Let's quickly move on because we've still got 2 games to get through in this section.
Let's go.
Jesus Christ. Because from the highs of Skyrunner, Jesus, we move on to our next one. Another arcade conversion greets our eyes. Conversion, yes, another arcade. This is Breakthru. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Is that a Queen song as well?
Yes, possibly. Maybe. It rings a bell.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Maybe. Anyway, it's a second arcade conversion. And this is a conversion of the Data East game Breakthru. Okay, so the plot is that you have to recover a stolen superplane from some evil scumbags who have nicked it. It must be the only plane they had, as you are given a poxy car to get it back. Why couldn't they give you a plane or a helicopter or something? I don't know. Anyway, you got a car. So you got to traverse 5 enemy-packed sections to get the plane back and make off with it like a bandit. So the arcade game's actually okay at this. Like we said about Galavan.
Yeah.
And Gauntlet. This isn't, though. but this is worse than both Gallivant and Gauntlet. This is dreadful from every angle. There are many issues with this. Why do you start on a blank field of yellow and then scroll onto the roadway?
Good question. Nobody knows.
Why would that? Because it doesn't start like that in the arcade. You just start on the road. Why, unlike the arcade, you have to get all the way to the side of the screen to speed up? Don't do that in the arcade. You just, you control your speed by going left and right. Why do I have to press space to jump? Ugh. Holding space and pressing up would have worked far better as you don't. Holding the fire button and pressing up would have worked far better as you don't need to do it much.
You can't even describe the controls yourself. You've lost it now.
I can't. They're so broken. Why are the graphics so yellow and rubbish and ill-defined and just generally awful? Why are the enemies so crap? Those flame-throwing trucks had me laughing my head off. Just literally laughing my head off. Why do my bullets go over buildings and yet I drive under them?
Just because it's rubbish.
It's just a dreadful, dreadful arcade conversion. This is one of the worst I've seen so far. This is and this shouldn't have been that hard to do. This is not like state-of-the-art arcade games or anything. It's just a fun little left to right sideways scroller with a car.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be hard, but this is garbage. This stinks of quick book conversion crapness. There is, however, a cracking Fred Gray tune in this, though, which is the only good thing about it. But I couldn't figure out a way to listen to it all because the game kept starting and cutting it off. A terrible, terrible conversion that's been rushed out. There are 5 stages to this which you've got to get through. I'm not going to list them all because they're crap. The game it's a really, really poor approximation of the arcade version. Just dreadful, awful, garbage. I hated this. What did you think?
Nah, my first comment was it's a stupid, crappy load of shit, and I'm not deviating from that. I agree with everything you said, apart from the fact that I thought the music was awful, so I don't know quite what you were hearing, but I thought it was all right. No, it's just rubbish. The whole game's rubbish. It's a crap side-scrolling shoot-'em-uppy thing with a novelty car of some kind. It just lacked the development of all the key things like animation, finishing, fun and skill that would have made this game anything other than a passive load of nonsense and crap and garbage, which is what it was. Waste of time. A waste of my time, and I will not get that time back, so Breakthru, sod off. And you're not what you say you are anyway. I thought going into this it would have been kind of a breakthrough game, a la Arachnoid or something like that. So it also lied.
Oh, like Breakout.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's called Breakthru. That would have been a light relief from this nonsense that it was. It was crap.
Yeah.
And I've looked over the arcade, the Data East original. It's nothing like that. In thematic logic, it's somebody thought that that's what it looked like, but they were clearly high. So no, it didn't look
I really like the colour yellow. Considering the arcade game is really brown, and the C64 is renowned for its brown.
Well, there's no excuse for this.
Why they've chosen yellow?
Well, there's no excuse for making this. There's no excuse for making it this badly. There's other games of this type on the C64 that are way better than this and doing the same kind of thing. And so there's no excuse for it. It's just bad development. This is crappy programming. So no, absolute nonsense. This rubbish.
Yeah, there we go. That's Breakthru. Quick, to the point. Let us break on through to the next one, which is our last one of this section. Let's break through to the other side because we've got our last one coming up. And that last one is one of the twist games on the system, I have to say. Graham, that's another H game for this section.
It is. Oh my God,
our final one. Tell us all about Heartland.
So Twee by soundtrack, I think, because the soundtrack is Twee for this. So Heartland, the world of Heartland has fallen under the rule of the ruthless tyrant Maidan and his various evil minions. So you've got to find the final 6 pages of the magical book to overthrow him. And you find those and you've got to assemble them. Now you'll find that this story is, however it may be wrapped, because this is an Odin game, I believe.
It is Odin, yeah.
So however you wrap this story, this is going to start to sound a little bit like Odin titles such as Nodes of Yesod and Ark of Yesod. So you've got to get the evil pages and they've got to be destroyed in order to, unleash the freedoms of the world. So you've got to locate the magical pages and destroy the 6 dark pages. You can collect various things and spells along the way. Those things can enable you to do things like throw and kill your enemies, including firing a magical hat and other things. Any contact with the enemies will cause you to lose energy. As you grow weaker, the face of Maidan appears in your display, which is kind of horrific, at the top of the screen. So it's a kind of a flick screen, explory game a la Nodes of Yesod. Now, the graphics in this game are quite nice, I have to say. Nicely drawn. I've looked at all the other versions as well, so the Amstrad version and the Spectrum version. And as you'd imagine, The Amstrad version's got very bright colours. The Commodore 64 version sits in between. They've got the Spectrum version. The Spectrum version has kind of got that kind of high res, but lacks kind of the definition of colour and stuff. So this is a game that's across multiple devices and multiple computers. So in the Commodore 64 version, you get the nice kind of famously kind of twee music for Heartland, do 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 do, and it's all good. You move quickly between the areas. The main sprite that you play is kind of a guy walking around. Kind of a guy with a top hat. He looks a bit like as I imagined a character from Monopoly would be. The kind of guy that wears the top hat in Monopoly would be that guy. So you kind of walk around in that kind of world.
What? Just the hat? The hat counter?
Yeah, just because he's got like a top hat and I just imagine he walks around. He's kind of a nicely drawn character, and you kind of navigate your way through the various doors. Now, I didn't like the way it navigate between the doors because you kind of face forward or backwards and push upwards and downwards to go through, which means you're going to need to draw a map for this because if you don't, you are going to get lost within about 4 seconds. Yes. So this is a mapper's delight again. So as long as you draw the map, you won't lose your way, which is important because you're going to need to do that. You can throw your hat as you walk around to sort of, kill the enemies such as they are. You lose energy, but if you bump into things and do that, you will die in this game. There's no doubt about that. And it does look nice. Weirdly, the Commodore 64 version lacks some of the sounds the other computer versions have in sound effects. So the Sinclair Spectrum version has more sound effects than the Commodore 64 version. How's that for weird? So because of that, there's a tactical sensation around the game you don't get in the Commodore 64 version. It's kind of quiet. And I think that is a problem. I have to say, I think it's a bit of a problem. If you're going to explore in these games, and it's a bit like the logic of it is a little bit like the old Ultimate games. It's not an Ultimate game, but it's got that kind of feel about it. If you play the Spectrum version, you'll see what I mean. It's got that kind of and all those kind of sound effects you get, but you don't get those in the C64 version, so it kind of feels empty of them. And graphically, it kind of sits in a nice place. So it's an explore the world kind of game. It has some nice touches. It's got some quirky notes here and there, but it's very notes of Yesod. And I just felt it lacks something. And I think twee music aside, and the graphics are quite nice, but I just think it's just lacking. Spellbound was better than this. Spellbound had that crap mechanic of dying just because you were just bored, I think. But this, it feels like a bit of a Spellbound type idea. The graphics nice, got that Odin sort of quality. But again, as we said with the previous Odin game that we've looked at, it has all the substance in terms of its look and feel and sound. It just lacks the cohesion. It lacks the real meat behind this game to really drive you to want to do more. And it just feels like you're kind of plodding around different screens. Periodically, wizards appear on the screen and you throw your hat at them, whatever. But how many screens of that are you going to go through before you think, actually, I just want something else to happen? And because of that, I felt like Heartland was a little bit devoid of any of the fun that these games require. So it was twee and dull, and that's such a shame to say for a pretty game, but it was dull. It was another turn and log of dullness. So what about you?
I think, I think I'm a bit more up on this than you are. I think I actually quite enjoyed my time playing this, strangely enough, because this is, yes, it's got the same sort of into the screen as we saw in Turn and Og or Flash Gordon. So with those arches you have to move in and out of or whatever, and I quite like the way you knew whether you had to go in and out because you walked in front or behind them. That's quite nice. The music's ace. It's so twee, but it's great. I remember you did a really good version of it on the Amiga, didn't you?
I did.
It did. It was very good. It's another arcade event from Odin, and it's from the people who did Nodes of Yesod, and you can see that. But I think this is actually quite a progression from them. So the gameplay is fairly simple. You run around, you jump over evil Frankensteins and wizards, which is kind of weird. But you do have, there's another mighty bound. I don't know if you noticed in this. He does have a mighty bound to jump over things.
He does.
So, we do love our mighty bounds at the moment in games. Collect this, I'm not say about the plot. It's collect 6 pages and destroy 6 pages. I think that, like you said, the graphics are great. They're really, really well detailed and well drawn and well animated. The backdrops are a little sparse, but what's there is excellent, and there's really good use of color. I think showing high res stuff, and the 64 is capable of more browns and greys. So we've seen it in Antiryad and things like that, and I think this is a similarish. It's just nice visuals. I think putting it on a flatter plane than Nodes of Yesod is what I actually preferred of this, because if you fall down holes, you die. So just knowing that you just got to go left and right and figure out your way through this, into and out of the screen, I kind of got onto that quite quickly. And I quite like some of the little player affordances that go in. So there's those clouds that float about, and some of them will give you health and get rid of the bad guy's image, and you will get different weapons. You can get fireballs and hats and all kinds of things to pick up if you jump into them. So I quite like that idea of, whereas in Nodes of Yesod, it was just like, there was nothing to help you, didn't feel. In this, it feels like there is, and it's all part of the game and the game world. There are some problems with it. I think you're right. It just can feel a bit empty and a bit quiet, but
The
I
word
didn't
you're
really
looking
mind
for
that.
there is boring.
Well, no, see, because I didn't find it boring.
It is boring.
I found it actually all right. Well, that's fair enough if you did. I'm not going to say you didn't, but I didn't. I quite enjoyed my time wandering around in this. But yeah, as you've noticed, my last comment is you will need a map because you will get lost. I did manage to get to the second area though, just by working out in my head, sort of logically thinking through it. So I don't know. So I did get there, but it's just nice. I just liked it. There's just a nice feel about this game that just appealed to me for some strange reason.
Oh yeah, I found my way to the lifts. So I was
like
going up and down the lifts and doing all of that.
But I just didn't have much of a problem playing it. I just thought, given a bit more time, I'd have quite happily played this. I found this more enjoyable than things like that. Starquake and things like that, which just seemed like hundreds and hundreds of screens. This felt a bit more approachable.
But I'd have rather played Spellbound. Better music and it's kind of better game.
See, I wouldn't have rather played Spellbound. I'd rather played this.
No,
but,
Spellbound's better.
Fair enough. We can agree to disagree, but it is what it is. That's Heartlander, split down the middle.
It's just
winner
cheaper.
takes all.
I mean, if you're going to play a crappy game, you must as well play a cheaper crappy game.
Well, I guess so. If that's what you want. But I just preferred this. And I think I remember liking this back then. I played this quite a lot back then. There was something about it. I think it's just that music just draws me in. Don't know. It's like Mission AD. It reminded me of Mission AD in that similar sort of thing. It's that music drives you through. Just know the way that the music drives an ambience to it that probably the gameplay doesn't deserve.
I felt like this is what I call the wizardry equation, and I've tuned myself out of that. I don't let myself be fooled by it. Wizardry was like that, and wizardry was crap. It was a
yeah, but wizardry was broken.
Yeah, but wizardry was I was hooked in by the music totally because it's famous for its music. Everyone remembers the wizardry music, and yet when you get to the game, it's not good. And I'm sure we're going to come more like that. And Heartland's a bit like that. The music is great and it's twee, but it is catchy. But the game is not.
Fair enough. We'll leave it on that. But that's it. That's our games for this section. That's a long bloody section. And we've got just loads more coming up. So should we move on? I think that's that.
I think we should.
Let's tune out. Stay with us because we'll be back shortly with music in February 1987. So stay with us.
Spoonfuls to our sponsor, davidhearnwriter.com, where you'll find bargain books, ebooks, and audiobooks. Let's hear a sample from his incredible audiobook, Starfarers and Tharnians in Space, narrated by the one and only Tim Valencia.
Poppy raised her voice. Navigation's offline. I'm trying to get the damage under control. Elvin, help me out here. Elvin was frozen. I don't want to die. I haven't even seen the new Atom Bender model yet. And I want to. She takes you to new places, the ad said. He wondered about that. Yes, she was a tempting mistress. However, there was some candy aboard this ship he'd never had the chance to get up close and personal with. The core of this ship was highly radioactive, but some things were worth dying for. Deacon snapped. Someone take the cannon. Poppy, turn that infernal thing off. Bo looked about, shaking his head. What cannon? It's gone, mate. Gone. Just like us. Last man in Gallagher, and we can't fire.
Wow, you've got to love it, right? Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
All right, welcome back. So let's look at music for February 1987. And straight away, we're into our number one singles. What have we got? I Knew You Were Waiting for Me by George Michael and Aretha Franklin was at the number one spot for the first 2 weeks of the month. And you've got an interesting anecdote here about her, I noticed.
Yes, Aretha Franklin had a really crazy life. And if there's ever somebody that you should look into and go, and when you look back over their sort of life, and I mean, like married at 14, first child at 15, I think it's crazy life, like cramming a lot in. But she is famous for her appetite and her special food. And according to the New York Times article from August the 7th, once in the studio, Aretha required special fuel. She would call out, "Get me the fried chicken and cheeseburger." This is according to Narada Michael Walden, a drummer who worked with her. And he told the Post she would then eat the chicken and burger, undo the top button of her jeans and blast the vocals out from wherever she blasted her vocals out from.
So, from where?
Yeah. The crazy thing is, and I'd heard this a few times before, she was famous because she is actually a really good cook as well. Famous for her own recipe fried chicken. So she really liked that kind of fried chicken, that kind of sort of, she's famous for it. It didn't, it obviously didn't do anything for her waistline, but it obviously, it didn't affect her vocal performance because Aretha Franklin is an amazing vocalist, and that is it's a great single from both of them, to be fair.
Do you reckon she got George Michael addicted on the chicken and burger routine as well?
I don't know. I'm going to have to think about. I'm joking. Think.
Get out.
Without your 4 fried chickens and without Mad Guitar Murphy. But there you go.
Oh, desperately running through my mind of any chicken-based wham pun I can come up with, but I'm stuck. I can't. Oh, no, it's not coming.
No, so that was
last
2 weeks.
2 weeks of the month. Gosh. It was 2 weeks, Total Recall, yes. Then for the next Total Recall was Stand By Me, 1987 version by Ben E. King. And yeah, it would have been the re-release because of the film, which had been out at the same time.
Yeah, because it originally was performed in 1961, so I'm guessing it didn't take that long to get into the charts.
It was a very slow burn.
Very. Ding, ding, ding.
Very slow.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, because you can't forget the film, can you, really?
No. I mean, I'm sure we're going to come across the film at some point.
Yeah, totally. One of the all-time greats.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That's your number 1 singles. Number 1 albums. You're going to have to explain this to me. Graceland was back in for 2 weeks by Paul Simon with the first 2 weeks of the month. Why have you put a picture of the vampire at the window from Salem's Lot?
Because that's what we said in the last episode. It's like Paul Simon coming to the window going, "Let me in." They won't go away. It's like, "Go away, go away." It won't go away. Go away. Great. You're a great album and all, but go away. Go away.
Go away. Let's
make room for the mushrooms. Make room for somebody else.
Indeed. But shouldn't have, actually, I'd have preferred it to stay at number 1 then. But what happened next?
Oh, gosh.
Because the last 2 weeks of the month were the Phantom of the Opera, the original cast.
Oh, God.
So this was Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sarah Brightman.
Yeah, Sarah Brightman, and the guy from Some Others Do Have 'Em.
Oh, yeah, Michael Crawford. No. The guy from Condor Man is, I think, you'll find.
Yes, Condor Man. Yeah, Michael Crawford. Yeah.
Good old Condor Man. What a stupid film that was. I went to the cinema to see that.
Oh, goodness me. That accounts for the demographic of and the one person that saw it. You. Or your brother, maybe.
Absolutely. On the way out, sort of thing, I slipped down the stairs, fell over, went, "Oh!"
Yeah.
ended up in the Butterkist and skated off down the road.
And then decided to jump off the Eiffel Tower. Or was it Blackpool Tower? I can't remember which it is in that film.
Oh, no, it's... Condor Man would be really crap if he jumped off the Blackpool Tower.
No, it would suit that film.
No offense to the Blackpool Tower, but it's the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, it's the Blackpool Tower, really.
Hasn't it got Oliver Reed in it?
I don't know, and I don't think I've seen it once, and that was enough.
Oh dear, Betty. Anyway, that's your number 1s.
Yes.
What else did we have?
By the way, I hate the Phantom of the Opera, but it does make me think of the Phantom of the Paradise, which was the Brian De Palma crappy effort thing. Just people should. But that is a lost film in the archives of the weird film archives of Brian De Palma.
What, Phantom of the Paradise?
Phantom of the Paradise, yeah, it totally is. It's just plain weird. Anyone who tries dies. That's what I remember him saying in that film a lot. You should check it out. Actually, I'm gonna have to watch it again, I think, and then I'll realise how bad it was.
Yeah, don't waste time. Do something better.
Well, Brian De Palma does have his things. Better. He does have a, I don't always like his films.
He does, and he should give them back.
I don't know. The early Brian De Palma movies are always interesting to watch because of his, Hitchcock obsession and things like that. Anyway, you be the judge when you go and watch it yourself.
Yeah, Carrie's good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah.
The Fury's all right.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about the Brian De Palma movies we don't like, which because there's a few of those in that kind of time.
There'd be quite a lot.
Let's not mention anything like that. We don't want the one with John Travolta and the main character in it. Was it Blowout? It's not classically great because is it Blow Up or Blow Out? I can't remember.
I think it's Blow Out. Blow Up is the
It's just
Mike
awful.
Antonioni one, is it?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
the Italian
I
one?
don't know. I'm not sure of it all. I can't remember now. And there's that other one where it's got the Frankie Goes to Hollywood video in the middle of it with Holly Body in it, and that's god.
Body double.
Body double. Goodness me, so bad.
Which someone just gets killed with a massive drill halfway through. Really violent.
It's very violent. But when you look at it back now, like we said, in ultra high definition, it ain't good. It was bad enough in regular definition, but it ain't good in ultra high definition. Let me tell you. The later films that come along, like what's that? Is it Snake Eyes? He did, didn't he, with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, don't bring up Raising Cain.
Oh, I forgot he even did that. No more. I'm not talking about it anymore.
Yeah,
I was thinking of Carlito's Way for a second.
Which is good, and he always did Mission Impossible. So
yeah, Carlito's Way is good, but it has that scene, doesn't it? You are so beautiful.
Don't. It's like if you watch the second Matrix film, you just press go to next scene before they have the big dance sequence in Zion. The film is about 1,000 times better with that cut out, and I never watched that scene. Now, when I watch the Matrix Reloaded, I just flick to the next bit.
Yeah,
works. It's so redundant, that scene. But yeah, that sex scene in Carlito's Way. Oh God, I remember us all laughing our tits off in the cinema when we were watching it.
So
we just go, this is awful. This is awful.
So bad.
It really is. Yeah. Anyway, from Brian De Palma, let's move into the rest of our singles because we've got tons.
Loads.
At number 12 on the 1st of February was Shoplifters of the World Unite by the Smiths.
Well,
and yes, it was not included on a studio album. Was that the case with most of those Smiths singles?
Yeah, always the case. And I've never professed any love for the Smiths at all because I don't.
No, neither have I.
Every day is like Sunday as far as I'm concerned with them.
It's me in a coma as far as I'm concerned. Number 24, Stay Out of My Life by 5 Star.
Classic.
Okay.
From their LP Silk and Steel. And the B-side of their single for that was used on the kids' TV show How Dare You?
I don't remember that show.
Well, it was at late ITV. You'd have been in your teens way before that was the thing, so it wouldn't have been in your demographic. Okay. You weren't the demographic.
No. Number 36 was Gigolo by The Damned, and you put some lyrics here.
Yeah, because they feature the words Roger Moore, and I thought that was worthy of mention. It's some resurrection is no conclusion, some poor pretension, but no invention. In the night they become just what they want, one imitation, just like Roger Moore. So
seems a strange way to end that.
It is
section of lyrics.
It's like if you substitute the Jesse James by Cher in there, just like Roger Moore.
That song would be really different.
It would.
Hello, hello, Cher.
He's gonna kiss you. He's gonna grab you. He'll form a cloud of dust, and he'll it's all there for you. Yeah. By the way, this came out. That single by The Damned was out in black vinyl, green vinyl, blue vinyl, red vinyl, and yellow vinyl, and also there was a poster sleeve as well. It was a crazy amount of 7-inch variants in different colours.
That is a lot.
And the B side of it, the portrait, was used in an episode of the TV show Moonlighting. You would never imagine
that's
it, would
the Bruce Willis one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And
Bruce Willis, Sybil Shepherd.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Wow, imagine them using a Damned song. But look, don't forget that Miami Vice had a Mission track.
Well, yeah, true, but go and listen to that track by The Damned. It is nothing like what you'd imagine it sounds like.
Okay.
So you need to check it out.
Will do. Number 54, Who Is It? By Mantronics. Oh, yes. I only included this because it was our crap vert of the year.
It was. This is nothing like the crap vert.
Is it not?
No.
I was hoping it was. I was hoping it was like, made by a robot with a fleshlight.
No, it's early electro hip-hop funk. It's good, actually. It's really good. New York DJs Curtis Mantronic, otherwise known as Curtis El Khalil, and the rapper MCT, otherwise known as Trey Emden. Anyway, them. MCT and Mantronic himself. They did that. Good stuff.
I will take your word for that.
Take their word
for
it,
yeah. Okay. Who is it? Who is it indeed? 8th of Feb, number 18, Running in the Family by Level 42.
Classic Level 42.
Is that the way that we were building? No, that's Lessons in Love, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. They all
What's
sound...
Running in the Family?
And you're running in the family.
Running in the family.
So the interesting thing to note here is this is from the Running in the Family album. Did you know that by this point, Mark King's thumb had become so large and powerful he needed a heavy steel glove, which, by the way, the band nicknamed the Glonk, to prevent him from knocking down buildings and trees. And he once famously, and this is a true fact, pushed off a truck's tyres with just his power thumb in a PR stunt at the opening of the first Aldi store on the Isle of Wight. So there you go. Make of that what you will.
So what's the moral of that story? Never invite Mark King to an Aldi opening because he'll ruin your truck.
No, just don't ever signal him with a thumbs up, because if he does a thumbs up, that could break the roof of your house trusses. It'll shatter him.
Well, I was thinking if he did a thumbs up, he'd like break the sound barrier and just like emit a massive sonic cone.
That guy
into the sky.
He's got a very, very powerful thumb. Don't mess with it. That's why that's why they covered it with the glonk. Don't mess with the glonk.
Don't have a thumb war with him.
No. Many have tried, and
they've walked away armless.
Well, he says in the film Dune, has anyone tried? They tried and died. So yeah, they're just dead. They're dead now.
Yeah. Which is what he does after he says that. I imagine he sort of walks around with like the Seinfeld like theme tune.
Well, that's how he speaks. He doesn't actually talk anymore. He just
he speaks in slap bass.
He talks through his face. Yeah. What would you like for tea, Mark? Pizza, is that, or was that curry? Oh, okay, not pizza. Just be clearer. Goodness sake, Mark. Do I need to speak? This bass slap business is getting out of hand. Just put your hand down, Mark. Put it down slowly.
Put that glonk back on.
Fetch the glonk. His hand's out of control. And for Christ's sake, don't masturbate, Mark, because your dick's going to explode. Not in a good way.
Ew. Christ on a bike. Let's move on.
Yes, he's thumbed himself too much.
I don't want to think about what's running in the family now. Running down the family.
Horrible.
Number 19, just underneath level 42, with Stand By Me coming in. That would obviously go up to number 1.
By Benny King again.
By Benny King. Yes, number 28, When a Man Loves a Woman.
Yeah.
1987, Percy Sledge. And you are right, this was a very strange time, isn't it? Because we had loads of these back on the back of adverts and stuff.
Yeah, mainly Levi's adverts. Every time that there was a Levi's advert, these bloody songs got released. And it happened for quite a while, beyond 1987, because it was later down the line when Spaceman and all that stuff.
And Stiltskin as well.
Stiltskin was another one, and they were all Levi's adverts made into...
Yeah.
But this was the period when they were releasing these old 60s tracks, and just, I think my feeling is that it's strange that it's happening.
The other big one was Heard It on the Grapevine, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We've hit a few of them while we've been doing the podcast, and we'll hit more. But it just, for me, it shows a complete lack of respect of artists trying to make their way in that time. It's just wrong.
Yeah, but it will lead us to Nick Kamen.
Well, he's already been on with one of the other adverts, because the first Levi's advert was Nick Kamen. Where famously, where he slips his belt off.
Yeah, but it will lead to his pop career.
It did. I don't remember what that was like, and I'm glad I don't.
There you go. Stay that way. Stay forever.
Yes.
And at number 45 was The Right Thing by Simply Red. And I'm going to leave this bit to you.
Well, I question the legitimacy of... I don't like Simply Red. I don't. And the lyrics for that song are kind of... It's a bit troubling, isn't it? I mean, you've read these lyrics. In the middle of the night, when the time is right, sexily right. And you have to do this probably in Simply Red's way. I'm not going to do it in Simply Red's tonality, because it's not only can I not do that, but you know what? It would feel weird if I was trying to read these things and you're listening, because it's kind of weird. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm feeling hot. I ain't ever going to stop to get what you got. You better take what I bring. I feel it now. Much harder now. More than any old how. Say you feel the pain. Feel I'm getting harder now. Get off your back four. Get on the top more. Feel I'm sinking further down. Get off your back four. Get on the top more. In brackets. I told you to stop. You're sleeping out a lot. You told me get lost. Where's your understanding? For me,
it's like a detour at the end.
I think the whole thing's... I'm not 100% sure that is the crooning, seducing ballad that it's proposing to be. I feel like that's kind of a song sung by an obsessive maniac who's arguably forcing himself on someone, and I think it's wrong. And if he's been writing songs about that, well, no wonder he's Simply Red. That's kind of... And I think... And I stand by my argument earlier. This should have been Simply Bread. You could have made this into a bread-based song. This could be a song all about bake. This could be about baking. Yeah, baking. You know what? It could be about baking, kneading, and proving. That's what the song's all about. You know, that is
sung by Paul Hollywood.
Exactly. If you go back over those lyrics in the middle of the night when the time is right, sexily right, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm feeling hot. It's all about bread making. This is Paul Hollywood's anthem. I feel it now, much harder now, because it's been in the obviously part baked. More than anything, you say you feel the pain. Feel I'm getting harder now. He's been squeezing his loaf. It's gross in more ways than one. But there it is, right there. That's what it is. There aren't enough bread-based baking songs, as far as I'm aware. Certainly not by Simply Red, so fair play if that's what they did. I don't believe that's what they did, though.
I think a better crossover there, maybe Frankie Goes to Paul Hollywood.
Now that I want to see. Relax. Don't let your dough relax.
Yeah. Relax while it's in the oven.
Relax. Don't dough it.
When you want to prove.
Bow, bow, bow. You're needing the right direction. Yeah, I get it.
Welcome to the baking tent.
Need your bread. We needed. Yeah, I'm getting it. Bow, bow, bow.
Welcome to the baking tent. When two bakers go to bake.
It would be, bake like fire. Bread is like angel. Oh, never mind. Anyway, they keep bread at bay. Right.
I know this is going to keep you going for hours.
I'll be on my little bread trip. Anyway, quickly move on. Quick.
Moving on. 15th of February, number 22 was Sonic Boom Boy by Westworld.
I liked Sonic, a Boom Boy. I liked that song.
I seem to remember being okay.
Yeah, they were an interesting group. Described by Wiki as rockabilly. I'm not so sure about that. But they're named after the film about killer robots. What's not to like about that? And they've got quite a fun, punky sound. They're also using the soundtrack for the film Planes, Trains and Automobiles, which is a song called Banana Boom Bar or Banana Bar Boom or something like that. But you can Google that and YouTube it and you'll find out all about it.
Okay, I will do.
Do it.
Or I won't.
Do it.
Number 25, Skin Trade by Duran Duran. So were they imitated In Excess and Prince in this period?
Oh, didn't they just? Notorious, that period.
Yeah. So Andy Taylor was no longer an official member of Duran Duran, but he was credited as a session guitarist on this song.
Yeah.
Sounds stupid.
He wasn't.
But he didn't play guitar on it?
No.
What?
He wasn't a session guitarist on it at all. He just lied about it to make people go, oh, well, look, he's still part of the band. He wasn't at all.
Was he not?
No. Nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. He didn't want anything to do with it. No. Because it's utterly shit. And that song in particular, it sounds like a Prince track. And there's nothing wrong with that apart from when Prince does it, but not when Simon Le Bon's doing his version of that. It's awful. Bad. It's a bad album, Notorious. The whole period's bad. Bad. We don't like that. You Are My World at number 26. You Are My World 1987, by the Communards at number 26. Yep. From the debut album, the Communards. That's what it's called. Yeah.
I know. I believe you.
It does exactly what it says on the record.
More interestingly, though, at number 89 is Blind Before I Stop.
Now, we've mentioned it before,
by Meatloaf.
Weird.
This is Weird Loaf, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is well, he's lost. He's lost his chief kind of songwriter at this point. So, the Steinman is not around here. He's absent. And so...
it's obvious.
It's obvious. So you end up with this weirdness. Now, I watched the YouTube video you posted in there, which we'll put in the show notes. It's just weird. I can't understand a word he says. He's not singing in...
No.
He's not... A cat's like looking up and going, well, that is ace. Because what is he singing? It's just gibberish. Lunatic nonsense.
Every now and again, the sort of backing singers kick in, don't they? And you understand what they say, and then he just says some. Well, he just makes noises.
Yeah.
It's some weird live thing. It's so 80s as well. That all the clothes and everything are so the hair and everything
so
on the
big.
guitar.
He's not small in that, is he? He's proper. He's going through his near Fight Club phase. And the weird thing was this is because he was contractually not allowed to record another album with Steinman. So that prompts the response, doesn't it? He will do anything.
Why?
He will do anything of love, but he won't record a fifth album with Steinman because I don't know. He wasn't allowed. It was meant to be his own material, which is what this was. Hence the reason why he got this and those other couple of weird things we've come across before now. Awful, weird.
That one with John was it?
Yeah, that's
John,
on the same album. Yeah,
John Parr, wasn't it?
Yes, on the same album. Yeah, it ain't
not
good. No, it ain't good.
It ain't good.
No, not live.
Last week, the 22nd of February, in at number 17 is Manhattan Skyline by Aha.
Good track by them.
It is my favourite Aha track.
Oh,
I have to say.
Didn't know that.
I love this song. I think it's a brilliant song. Just the way it builds and slowly, and it's just an amazing chorus. But yeah, I absolutely love this song. And yes, it is another. They always had clever videos for their songs. At
very
this
clever.
period. They were always doing them. Yeah, like stuck in a sort of crossword puzzle and things. And
well, it starts with dot to dot, and then it goes to newspaper clippings, and then you end up in a crossword puzzle. It's really good, actually. Really good.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Yeah.
Number 18, Love Removal Machine by The Cult. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to forgive you for what you submitted here and made me watch. Because if you've listened to this, and we'll put the link in for the main song here, and it has to be said that this song, it doesn't just sound like it. It is just a rip-off of Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones.
It is.
It is almost verbatim the same guitar riff. Unfortunately, what Graham did was he then linked me to the video for Start Me Up, which then, I had to abase my eyes with bleach after watching Mick Jagger do things at the start of that video that cannot be described.
His dance is weird, isn't it? It's really strange.
So we're going to inflict it on you in the show notes.
Yes.
So we're going to put it in there, but please just go watch it because I don't know whether he's trying to act to the lyrics or something or whatever he's trying to do, but it is so very, very odd.
It's very, very strange.
And as I also said, it also reminded me of our friend Gary, but
it does
for different
reasons.
I
I don't like The Cult particularly, but in that video, they did remind me of a gang of really little vampires, like little vampires
sort of like,
made good.
They're like shit near dark or crap Lost Boys.
Yeah, not so near dark. Yeah, just the crap Lost Boys. Yeah, the nearly lost. Lost and found boys. They're just
they were found in the lost and found.
Yeah, they're just really small.
Anyone lost these?
It's like I don't know why, but I expect these vampire types to be kind of tall. They're already short. It's like the guitarist is like 5 foot. The singer comes out. They're all short. It's like short vampires. I thought The Cult would be bigger. They probably hear that a lot.
You did say we wouldn't have any northern midgets. Northern dwarfs.
I just thought that The Cult would be bigger. I don't know. I just, in the true, I thought you'd be bigger kind of tradition, but.
True.
Aren't you a little short for a rock star based vampire? Yes, you are.
Well, it's because what's the video? She sells Sanctuary. The camera's really close up to his lips, isn't it?
Yeah. Because if it pulled back, you'd see that he was 4 foot.
The microphone's not even extended.
Exactly.
Can you lower this, please? Can you lower it? I can't reach.
Can you fetch the small mics, for God's sake? We can't make it any lower.
Here he is, Mike Short, Mike Small. Hi, we're the small mics.
Can you imagine the technicians? Oh, for God's sake, fetch the mini mics. The last time we had these was out.
Hello.
The last time we had these out was on mini pops.
Small Cult. Number 23, I Get the Sweetest Feeling, 1987 by Jackie Wilson.
Yeah, guess what? It's got the term 1987 in it, which means it's a frustrating re-release of not a crappy song. It's
just an old 60s song.
Yeah, an old 60s song, yeah. And more marketing gimmicks.
Yeah.
I think they were killing the charts, I have to say, in my opinion, but there you go.
Yeah, they really were. It was a cash grab nightmare, wasn't it?
Yes.
Ghost we would see this really rear its head when we get to Ghost.
Yes.
About when's that? 1988, 89?
Yeah, something
89,
like that,
I think, innit? What else we got? Number 28, It Doesn't Have to Be by Erasure.
Classic.
I think you've got some more being annoyed here by some more math-based shenanigans.
Well, it's just the lyrics are, you are on one side, I'm on the other. Are we divided? Yes, that's the basic tenet of fractions, yeah. You got something on one side and something on the other. Are you divided? Yes, that's a fraction. They should call it the fraction song, really. Good song, though, all the same.
Okay. Number 31, Missionary Man by the Rhythmics.
Oh, that video was weird. Did you watch it?
I did, yeah. As I've noted on there, clearly seen the Sledgehammer video when they made this.
Totally. But the song was weird. Obviously, it's the less new wave synthy sound of Rhythmics, more into the kind of distinct rock sound with guitars, harmonicas. But Annie Lennox is always worth a listen, so I don't rate the production of this album and this single at all, though, I have to say.
No, I didn't particularly. It didn't enamor itself to me. Number 36, You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party by the Beastie Boys. We kind of spoke about them mostly last time, didn't we?
We did. I mean, it's not a song by them I like. Just wanted to say, as an anecdote, really, that I once got really drunk at a house party to this particular song. And for some reason, it culminated with us trying to lift a really heavy sofa bed off the floor for some reason, which dropped on my friend's foot, which made him scream out in pain because he actually broke his foot. So we laughed on the way to A&E about it, but that song was playing in the background at that particular time. I don't quite know why we tried to lift this really heavy sofa bed. It was one of them old metal framed things. It was so heavy. Why we tried to lift it, I don't know, but it just slipped and landed on him. So there you go.
Why do we do anything when we're drunk?
I don't know. Why. If someone said to you, why were you trying to lift a sofa bed? I don't know. It seemed like the thing we needed to do. There must have been a reason.
Maybe you needed more room to jump around or something, or whatever it is you were doing.
I genuinely don't know why. I can't think why we were trying to move that thing, but there you go.
Our last single, I Am the Law by Anthrax at number 37. Yes, chug, 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 chug. Yeah.
Oh, to Judge
Anthrax.
Dredd, essentially.
Yeah. I'm not reading them lyrics.
No, it's totally, because it's just about Judge Dredd. 15 years in the academy, he was like no cadet they'd ever seen, blah, blah, blah. Ends with Drocket, for goodness sake. It's a whole song about Judge Dredd. But I'd have thought, now this is what baffled me, because with you being the big Judge Dredd fan, I thought you'd have been well into that. But clearly it's...
I've never heard this. I've never heard this.
That's crazy. That's like the most famous song by Anthrax ever.
Well, I don't like Anthrax, so...
well, nobody likes
never liked
it.
Anthrax. It makes me very poorly.
It makes you very itchy.
I have to stay in bed for a whole week, sort of thing, with a hot poultice on my head.
Exactly. So, but yeah. Anyway, it's very chug chug
chug
chug chug chug chug chug chug chug chug chug.
Yeah, of course it is. I might give it a listen, but I've never been an Anthrax fan.
No,
not ever.
You won't enjoy it if you do.
Albums. 1st of Feb. In at number 47 was the Gap Band 8 by the Gap Band.
Yes.
The 10th album.
I know, this is what the numerics of this are doing.
Gap Band 8 is the 10th album. What?
In at number 47. It's all kind of mathematical anomalies right there.
It's the 10th album by the Gap Band with the Gap Band 8.
I know. Weirdly
Does it just mean there's 8 of them in the band?
No, I don't know. But they've never released a best of album called Mind the Gap. And that troubles me. Because that's waiting there for them. Someone should go, you know what we should release? It hasn't happened. No,
but they did go on to form a huge chain of clothing stores.
They did. That's how Gap came about. That's exactly how it came about. Khaki all the way.
Yes. Yeah, so much khaki. Number 58, Georgia Satellites by Georgia Satellites.
Yeah. We mentioned it last time. One song was...
We did.
In the US, they were popular. They nearly beat Bon Jovi to the number 1 slot, but that's that.
But didn't.
They didn't, no.
First loser. Number 66, Cosmic Carrot by Jasper Carrot. It's a good guess you put here, some kind of comedy album. I'm guessing that's right.
Yeah, I couldn't find much about it. There's not much out there about it.
No, I couldn't either. But anyway, we spoke about Jasper Carrot before.
We did.
But, he's got an album out. His albums are usually pretty funny, so there you go. 8th of Feb at number 2 was The Cost of Loving by the Style Council.
Yeah, they were totally off my radar at this point, and just they were annoying by this point.
I just included it because it was in at number 2 and thought we better mention it.
They're popular but annoying.
Yes. Style Council, that's Paul Weller, isn't it? Yeah, it is Paul Weller, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm in it again. And apart from the Jam, I've never liked anything he's done.
Nah.
Nope. Apricot. No. Number 11, Midnight to Midnight by the Psychedelic Furs.
Not a group I really liked. This album was produced by Chris Kimsey, and he'd recently produced Marillion's Misplaced Childhood, which has got Kaylee on it. So if you listen to Midnight to Midnight, it's got that kind of
and
Kaylee
Lavender
vibe. Yeah, it's got that. Yeah,
with the dilly dillies.
Blue dilly dilly, and this Midnight to Midnight has that vibe. It does. If you listen to the album, it's very
not what you want.
Very of that kind of genus.
In at number 27 was Mad, Bad and Dangerous to Know by Dead or Alive.
I
didn't know this was their 3rd studio album.
It was again produced by Stock Aitken and Waterman.
Saw.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Same lineup, classic lineup. Pete Burns on vocals, of course. Sadly, he died suddenly of a heart attack on the 23rd of October 2016, aged 57.
I'll take your word for that. I'm not saying anyone's dead.
No, he definitely is.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'll take your word for it. In at number 66 was Gaudi by the Alan Parsons Project.
Interesting.
What are the Alan Parsons Project?
I don't know. And this is the question I had to ask myself, because I didn't know much about Alan Parsons or his project at all. Was it Agile? Was it Waterfall? What was his project? What was it all about? I don't know. I just, periodically I'd heard this been mentioned, and so I looked into it. To find out exactly what it was all about. And it turns out that he worked at Abbey Road Studios, and he'd worked on all sorts of different albums, including things like the Beatles albums, Abbey Road and Let It Be, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and also the eponymous debut album of Ambrosia, whatever that might be. I'm not even sure I've heard that. So he worked at Abbey Road Studios, and clearly he wanted to start a project and did, and therefore that's Alan Parsons' project, and that's how it came to be. So there we go, mystery solved.
Hey,
yeah.
I like it when a story has a nice ending.
Yeah, he just made a project, and there it was.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's very Alan Parsons. So what I know about them is like calling an album Gaudi, which is after an artist and everything. So I couldn't say more about Gaudi, but I know he's in. He was an artist. I'm pretty sure he's dead. Otherwise, he'd be about 200 years old or 100 years old.
And it's nothing to do with the Steel Span Gaudete, is it? So I'm not really that interested.
No, it is not.
Alan Parsons' project, But there's a software solution right there. Alan Parsons Project Management. People might have bought that.
I know. I had heard of Gaudi. You've been to Barcelona, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, he did all the buildings there. Did all the Gaudi stuff, all the crazy buildings and everything.
Yeah, with the Gaudi buildings, he would have done.
Yeah. Yes.
That,
he did
all
that.
the curly
Sagrada
ones,
Familia and all that.
Yeah.
I knew I'd heard the name.
Didn't help the album.
No, not much of a project. Number 72 was Warehouse Songs and Stories by Husker Du.
Not a big Husker Du follower.
No, I mean I liked some bits and bobs of theirs, but not a massive fan. I was this was their last album, wasn't it? After Bob Mould and Grant Hart fell out. Bob Mould, he would go on to form Sugar.
Right.
In an experiment.
Sugar experiment.
That's Sugar Project.
Then Sugar got dissolved.
Hey, we're here all night. 15th of Feb, the Phantom of the Opera original cast, straight in at number 1.
Of course,
we've already said that. At number 3 was The Very Best of Hot Chocolate.
Yeah, all the different recipes, mocha.
So you can think of 3 songs, can you?
Maybe. I Believe in Miracles. That may not even be what it's called. And then there's the other ones they did. I can't think of any. One, maybe 2 songs. Well, I'm pretty sure they had loads, but...
I wondered if you could. So what I've done here is I just thought we'd have a little quiz.
Okay.
And so what I've done is hot chocolate songs, real or false?
Ah, sounds good.
What I've called chocolate or mocolate, or chocolate or choconut.
I like it. Chocolate or mocolate. It's all good.
So I've got I think there's 18 tracks here. Right. Half of them are real, half of them are not. Can you guess which is the real hot chocolate song and which isn't?
Okay.
So number 1 we have "Can You Feel My Boogie."
I think that's a real one.
That's false.
Oh, God.
That is false.
That's how it's going to begin.
Number 2, "Love Is Life."
That's true.
It is true. It reached number 6 in the UK in 1970. A third one, "Brother Louie."
False.
That is true. Ugh. It reached number 7 in the UK in 1972.
It's been around that long.
Yeah. Heartache number 4 is "Heartache Number 7."
False.
That is false, yes.
Sorry, mocolate.
The next one, that is mocolate. Yes, is it chocolate or mocolate? Yeah.
False.
Next one, "Disco Queen."
Chocolate.
It is chocolate. Yes, number 11 in the UK, 1975. Our next one, "My Heart Is Full of Disco."
Mocolate.
It is false. Yes. The next one, "Where Did I Leave My Cadillac?"
Chocolate.
That's actually mocolate, I'm afraid.
Oh, no.
Full on mocolate. Our next one, "Heaven Is in the Back Seat of My Cadillac."
Chocolate.
It is chocolate, yes.
So
that is true. It's
number
number 25 in the UK in 1976. Next one, "Downtown Fever."
Ooh, mocolate.
It is mocolate, yes. Uh-huh.
I mean, you came up with that.
I did come up with that. "Your Arms Can't Take My Love."
Chocolate.
That's mocolate, I'm afraid.
Oh, damn it. That should have been a real one.
"I Believe," in brackets, "in love."
Chocolate.
It's chocolate, yeah. It reached number 8 in the UK in 1971. Next up, "Sweet Sister Sarah."
Ooh, mocolate.
It is mocolate, yes. Good guess. Next up, "Mindless Boogie."
Chocolate.
It is chocolate, yes. It reached number 46 in the UK in 1979.
So many songs.
Up next, "When You Grip Me Tight," in brackets, "I Cry."
Mocolate.
It is mocolate, yes. And our last one, "Heartache Number 9."
Chocolate.
It is chocolate, yes. The Heartache Number 7 was the false one. That reached number 76 in the UK in 1986. So well done. That's a quite a good ratio there.
Tally. Right. I think less than 50%, but I'll take that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So that was a little chocolate or mocolate.
Well, I like to. I believe in miracles, and one just happened, I think.
So yeah, "Where Did I Leave My Cadillac?" They should have had a song called "Downtown Fever," though. It just sounds.
Surprised they didn't.
Someone should. Anyway, there you go. Very best of hot chocolate.
What you need to do now is look up all those song titles and see if anyone actually did come up with that, not hot chocolate.
I'm pretty sure they did. "When You Grip Me Tight, I Cry."
That sounds like a AC/DC song.
Bet it is. Right, there's your hot chocolate minute. Number 64, Back in the DHSS again by Half Man, Half Biscuit.
Not a fan.
Yeah. No, they were just weird, weren't they?
Yeah,
weird and spiky.
It's split up by then anyway.
Punky, weren't they?
Yeah, that was Peel sessions and a few new songs, but it was wasn't really a real thing.
No. And our last album of the month, released on 22nd of February, but in at number 97 was Rock the House by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
I know. The crazy thing is that this was so early, so 1987. I thought it was later than that. And I remember listening to Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble with Gary, because he was into that kind of thing at the time. And I remember hearing, that I Dream of Jeannie sort of, sample. And as soon as you hear it, you're like, girls of the world ain't nothing but trouble. It's a good song. That album's pretty good, actually. It's very early Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, but it is, he's a talented guy. They both are amazing, especially Jazzy Jeff. So
yeah. And obviously really Will Smith would go on to a much larger career, shall we say.
Crazy good. He's brilliant, by the way, in the new film about the tennis stars. Definitely go and see that, about the Williams sisters. Really good.
All right. I thought you meant Bjorn Borg.
No, he's not in that. He's in the one about this Serena Williams and co. And he plays their dad. He's really good in it. Amazing stuff. So go watch that.
All right. I will do. So there you go. That's music. That's all they wrote. That's all we have for February 1987. So we'll be back very shortly with another chunk of games. We've got 6 more games to come up. And we'll be back after these short messages. So please stay with us.
Doffing of our caps to our show sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com. Let's have ourselves another audio sample from his super cool audiobook, Starfarers and Tharnians in Space, narrated by Mr. Cool himself, Tim Valencia.
You're galactic pirates? I prefer the term self-philanthropists. A white, bulky, tubular droid on wheels with eyes like cherries and enough lights to double as a Christmas tree whizzed by with a rattle and crashed into a wall. Wright said, "You'll have to excuse 128. He needs a service. Ironically, due to lack of use. Seized up, I'm afraid." 128 bounced off a wall, recovered, then accelerated into Deacon's behind. Bo laughed out loud. "You've got goat droids!" Deacon fired a dirty look at the droid. "More like a white elephant, I'm afraid."
Wow, that is great stuff indeed. Visit DavidHearnWriter.com to find out more.
Hello, welcome back. We've got 6 more games to come up in this section, so let's crack on and get into our first one. Our first one is Firelord. Firelord is our first one. That's from, I think it's Hewson, isn't it? Did Hewson make this?
It is Hewson,
sure
yeah.
Hewson.
It is Hewson.
Hewson Games. And this is from the designer of Starquake. So it's the designer of Starquake. And what we have here is Firelord. It's a Robin of the Wood type game, let's say, with added bartering. I think that's a pretty apt synopsis. So you play Sir Galahad, and you must save the land of Torot from the evil queen who has nicked the Firestone from a dragon and placed the land under a curse. Now, instead of people, pale, read single colour, wraiths roam the land in search of colour, or something or other. You've got to find the 4 legendary charms of eternal youth that are scattered across the land, and then the queen will give back the Firestone, and all will be well again. So, if you picture Robin of the Wood, we're in familiar territory here, with a vaguely pleasant flick screen adventure that it's got a little bit of some touching up, it's a bit more colour, but essentially it looks like the Spectrum game that it originally was, because that's where it's come from. It moves fairly fast, which is something. But once again, each screen, we've seen this so many times, and we thought we were starting to see the back of it, but it's riddled with enemies that spawn again and again and again, and they just move around, and they're just a hindrance, rather than by design. There's anything to them, just there, and they're just annoying. For my money, Robin of the Wood did the exact same thing about a year ago and did it better. The bartering side of things is quite a nice addition, going to try and get stuff from these people in homes and what have you. And you can try and nick stuff, which is, quite funny, because it then brings up like this Uridium style mini game where you've got to get 3 stages and get them right as it flicks from left to right caught or not caught, whatever it says. So you try to pill stuff, and that's quite nice. But the problem is the main meat of the game is we've done this, Sabre Wolf, Robin of the Wood. We've done it loads of times before. There was that other one, one we played ages ago, which I can't even remember now. But we've just done it, and for my money, like I said, Robin of the Wood's better. It's just a better game. So I would say go play that. I mean, the graphics are nice in this, and it's not awful. It got 68%. It's just another one of these things that we're starting to see quite a lot of, and we will see quite a few of these coming up in whatever form, or these kind of flicks. We've just seen them before, and I don't know what to say about it really, because it's let down by that. I don't want to say that Spectrum typeness of it, but it is. It's just that can't get away from enemies everywhere. Just give me, Robin of the Wood. It was empty, but it was moldable better for it. You'd get some knights roaming around or whatever, which you'd try and beat up, and obviously there was the killer hedgehog. But generally, it was you trying to figure out what to do and moving around, and it was better for it. This just gets annoying quite quickly, and I found myself just wishing I was playing Robin of the Wood, which I should have done. What did you think? Did you get anything from it?
Yeah, well, it's Stephen Crow and John Cumming, who made Synapse later, and Starquake, and they made Starquake stuff.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was a lot like Sabre Wolf, this, in almost every way. And so it was basically another flick screen Sabre Wolf. It had nice Ben Daglish music on full on twee, but folky twee form, so it's Firelord. We've all heard the Firelord music. It's quite catchy again. It's another one of those map it or lose it arcade adventures. Lots of walking around the maze, picking up the things and trading and shooting and collecting artifacts. And if you'd like that kind of thing, you might find something interesting here. And in that essence, it was kind of the same kind of idea as Starquake, because that was kind of the same sort of thing. And it has that kind of look. So it looks kind of nice. The graphics are lovely in some places here and there. It's just boring. These games get a bit dull unless you really like mapping things. And it's just, It's more Sabre Wolf, more that kind of Attic Attack Sabre Wolf, very that methodology, very that mentality. And don't get me wrong, I like Attic Attack, but it's of its time, Attic Attack on the Spectrum. This is a little late in the day for a yet another Sabre Wolf clone, and it doesn't offer anything new, which is kind of a bit, and it's a slightly bigger screen real estate, I think, to play on than a Starquake, and it's that kind of high-resi kind of look to the graphics. It's nice looking. It just lacks, I think, lacks the variety needed of this kind of game to make it more interesting than all the other games that already precede it. So it's just another one, and not as good as some of the other ones, like Robin of the Wood and some of the others. So I just think I've seen it before, and I've seen it but done better. This is okay, but it's not as good as some of the others, so it's kind of forgettable. And, Firelord is a nice soundtrack, don't get me wrong, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do and all like that. Mm-hmm. And the version of this that was done for the 8-Bit Symphony was amazing, but it's nothing if not a little bit... the game's lacking, I think, sadly. The graphics are nice, but...
I would have preferred them to lean into the thing that made it different, which was the bartering and the going around town and doing stuff there, and make the town a thing of something where you're going from town to town, and rather than this big open woody nothingness, being just annoyed by annoyances.
In a different costume. This reminds me of those Xbox 360 games, what they're called, where you're running around the different various, and you can do trades and get jobs. And if they'd have stuck a bit more to those things, what are those games called? The Fable series. There's a hint of Fable about this, albeit that it's obviously 8-bit and there's limitations. But if they'd have stuck to that logic of Fable, where you went and did stuff, went on adventures and side quests and did that kind of thing, instead of it just being a kind of search for stuff, it would have been more interesting. And there are hints of it, like there are with a lot of these, like late 1986, 1987 games, is hints of greater things to come. It wouldn't surprise me if later down the line we find out that, Stephen Crow or John Cummins went out and had a pint with somebody that did so-and-so. And it's how these things work. But at this stage, this game is, like you say, focus on one thing or the other. But you can't just clone Sabre Wolf and add a little bit of bartering on the side. It don't work. And this game proves it. So
yeah, 68% it got. Probably about right.
It's bang on, yeah.
I'd say.
Bang on, yeah.
Yeah, really. You'll enjoy it if you like. This is a real and I know it's a cliche, but you will like this if you like these sort of things.
Yeah,
it'll be bang up your alley because it's competent and good looking and nice sounding and everything. It's not that there's nothing buggy or rubbish about it. It's just hard to wake up any enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, it's just kind of dull. Yeah, sad.
Yeah, there we go. That's that one. Firelord. There we go. Quick one out the way at the start of here. So let's quickly move on to our next one. Right, so what is our next one? Well, Graham, you have the pleasure of telling us all about Psycastria.
Yeah, I like to think of this as, this review is probably going to be Psycastria, I think, more than Psycastria. What a load of copy clone guff this is. All right, the Psycastrians, such as they are from the planet Psycastria, I imagine, are attacking. So you got to fly to the planet, home planet of Psycastria, I guess, and just kill everything, blow up the enemy bases, and it's a side-scrolling Iridium clone, which is crap. This is a port of a BBC micro game. So I'm guessing this was because Iridium couldn't be done on the BBC micro, so they released this version, which is Psycastria. And it's essentially like a Iridium-ish thing. It's not as good as Iridium in any capacity, and in fact, it's kind of shameless rip-off of Iridium. It's the same side-scrolling, same flip the ship round, same scroll left to right, same base relief below the stuff. It's Iridium, but it's called Psycastria. So the thing is, this is released after Iridium is already out, so it means that it can only be compared to Iridium, which is a great game, really well programmed. This has got speech in it as well. It does say, by the way, tough luck, sucker. You might need to listen to it a couple of times before what you think it said before you...
Oh, is that what it says?
Yeah, before you jolt back and go, you called me what? And the colour choices here are just plain old weird. Lots of browns and green base relief, which is not good. The base relief shouldn't be that colour. The main ship was horrible to control as well. It really didn't fly very well. The sounds were obviously a rip-off of Iridium. If you were going to play a Iridium clone, this is $8.95, by the way, and it got 20%, I think, in Zap.
Yes,
if you were going to play Iridium clone on the Commodore 64, you are going to play Iridium. If you bought this, I think this is the equivalent of being glove slapped by a metal gauntlet, because you'd just be angry at yourself. Why would you buy this? And what? Because if you had a BBC micro and you couldn't get Iridium, then if this was the closest thing to it, fine. But if you've got a Commodore 64, why would you buy this nonsense? And how did they get away with it?
Yep.
How did they get away with releasing this? This is a blatant copy clone. This is the nearly brand version of Iridium. So this is I can't believe it's not Iridium. It's it's that equivalent, and it's not very good. This is arse candle, and no one likes an arse candle. Either you've had some kind of colonic irrigation, and the wax that came out of the orifices that was cleaned is produced a candle, and this is it. Or you just like putting candles up your ass. Whichever way you do it, either way is probably more fun, arguably, than playing this nonsense. It's rubbish. I hated it, and I hated it because it was a rip-off, because it was a crap rip-off, and because it's more expensive, I think, or at least equally pricey as the original game. What stupid world are you in where you release a clone at the same price as the game you've ripped off? It deserves to be erased from time and space. I hope it is. I hate it. It's shit. Did you like it?
God, no. Don't forget by this point as well that the Iridium Paradroid double pack is also out.
That's what I mean. It's bizarre that they even released this.
It's just crazy. So my very first notes are like you. How did they not get sued for this? How did Andrew Braybrook not go round and just punch them on the nose?
I'm guessing it limited release. Maybe he just didn't think it was a problem because he thought when people see it, they're going to go, you know what? I'm just going to buy Iridium. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very subpar Iridium clone with not a single saving grace. The graphics are rubbish bash relief, but they don't look right as they've chosen the wrong colours. The fact that it's played out over a field is stupid. The structures are too long and boringly designed. The levels are dull. The sound effects are crap and annoying. And the title screen angles are a Euclidean nightmare.
Apart from that...
apart from that, you'll go a long way. Snap my Kit Kat. Woo!
Can't play, look awful.
Yeah, there you go. I said that to my son the other day.
Went to shoot him down.
I went, you'll go a long way. And he was like, I don't know what you're on about, Dad. I don't know what you're talking about, Dad.
He's picked up his ukulele and snapped it over his knee. He's like, this shit. I tried to impress you.
Well, I have a high quality bar. What can I say?
Well, when it comes to ukulele, I don't blame you because he was probably playing a copycat ukulele, a ukuloloid, very similar, 3-string thing.
Ukulolo. It sounds like a Hawaiian song. Ukulolo.
Yeah,
ukulele.
Ukuloloid. Yeah.
Ukulele la
sounds like a hemorrhoid cream, to be fair. Suffering badly? Get the break out ukuloloid.
Which is ironically what Psycastria sounds like. Suffering from Psycastria.
It does sound like a complaint, doesn't it? A mental complaint.
It does, yeah. It sounds like it does. It's like they've gone through because I did that many, many years ago when I was going to write something or create something. I think I was going to create a game on Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit before I actually did. And so I just looked through the dictionary for cool words and I found sciatica. And I thought, that's a good word for a name. That's a good name for it.
Sciatica.
Sciatica, yeah. I thought, that's a cool name for a game. So I think Psycastria is probably a condition of some description.
I think it probably is.
If not, it probably is now.
It will be, yeah. You look it up in the dictionary, it'll say, the weird feeling of playing a game you've seen before, but much better, and knowing you paid the same amount of money for it, and you've been ripped off. You get full on psychastric.
Yeah, you would. It's awful.
Psychastric flu.
Like what you said. I try look for saving grace in these games, but just this, the death is instant, and right back to the beginning of the boring level you go. There's no design to the levels. It's just more boringness. So Psycrapstria was what I said.
This is the equivalent of being shit in your open mouth.
In the wrong colours.
Nobody likes that.
it's like brown turd with green highlights.
It's just wrong. It's all kinds of
No one wants that.
No, you don't. You don't want that.
It is genuinely arse candy, this game.
It's bad.
I was really annoyed with it.
It's a bad game. It's bad. 20% is generous. This is a fifth good. It's not. It's 80% bad. It's more than that. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah. This made me want to go play War.
It's a psychastrophe.
That's how bad. Yeah. It's just terrible.
It's bad.
Oh, yeah.
It made me want to play War. That's saying something.
That's what I mean, and that was crap.
This drove you to war, not in a good way.
No. It
was crap.
I was just, awful. Let's move on quickly.
Yeah, let's neutralise electroscan quick.
Yeah, we need to, because I don't want to think about it anymore. What I do want to think about, though, is our next game, because our next game is Infodroid. Okay, so Infodroid, this is an interesting game. Strange game. So have you ever wanted to run your own business where you control droids who deliver stuff on a crazy highway of droid death?
No.
All right, this game's not for you then. Is this the M1 in our Amazon dark future?
That's bleak.
That's what I thought. Well, I did say it's a dark future.
Very dark.
No, this is Infodroid, a planet entirely devoted to the delivery of corporate mail, with offices deep underground. As ever, the plan for this mail delivering utopia went south, with corruption leading to lost mail and the like. That's the worst of it. That's the most corrupt they could do. Lost mail and dodgy dealings. So now we have attack and defense droids to protect the mail. It's weird, isn't it? Imagine DPD vans with guns, essentially. That's if you want to imagine that. Anyway, after picking your initial outlay of droid, giving you 8,000 credits, you can head out onto Droid Death Highway to try and score some business. So the main game screen is presented with 4 lanes of differing speeds on either side of a central walkway. And jumping from one lane to the next means you can go up or down faster as you get to the outside lane. Essentially what this is, there are imagine 9 columns on the screen. And they scroll faster, so the far left one goes down, and that scrolls faster than the one slightly in, all the way inwards, sort of thing, where the middle bit is the walkway, and that's static. And then the other side goes up, and then they scroll upwards, going faster as you get to the outside one. That's how it looks. It's quite a clever scrolling routine, I have to say. It's a really, really nice sort of graphical style to this, and the way that those scrolling sections of the screen work. I think it's actually quite clever, because when you jump on one, all the others sort of scrolling in different speeds. It's kind of a weird sort of simulated effect. It's kind of odd, but I did like it. I like that. So what you've got to do is you jump from one lane to the next. You can go up or down faster or slower. On the middle walkway, there are these circles, because it's like you go up in stages, in steps, basically. Your droid, I don't know how to describe your droid. It's just like a little sort of droid type, car-y type, craft type thing. So you're jumping up this middle walkway, and then you'll find some circles. Pulling down on the circles will take you into these underground mail bases where you pick up mail, and it'll tell you where you need to deliver it to. So there are 8 different highways. You get to those through various lifts on the main walkway, which act as junctions between these different highways. So if you get a piece of mail that needs to go to a different highway, you need to make your way there through the lift and deliver it. Essentially, that's it. You're just delivering mail. But there are loads of other droids bouncing about, roaming around things, and they will damage your droid. So you can pick up things to sort of power up to get guns. I think you can get guns. You can get stuff to just power up and increase your armament and stuff to enable your droid to live longer so that you can make more money. This game never ends, as far as I could make out. It just keeps going. It is a capitalist junction, a male planet nightmare, in that this mail cannot be stopped. This is a future where email was never designed, for one thing, which is kind of weird. If your droid gets destroyed and you've got enough money, you can buy another one. So it's an interesting game, but it just lacks a central goal. I couldn't figure out, because it just never seemed to end. It just seemed to go on forever. And after a while, I just realised the life of droid delivery was not for me, because it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. The presentation's quite nice. The sprites are good. It's got decent Fred Gray music. It's got 4 tracks, hasn't it, which you can pick from. And the scrolling effects is clever and smooth. And I like the interface in the underground bunker type things, which is it's like on a cube. So you can scroll this cube around, and in each face will have a different facet. So some of them will be where you can pick up mail. Another face will be where you can drop off mail. Another one where it allows you to change the music. There's 4 different tracks, or you can put it to sound effects. Another one allows you to go back out to the highway. You've got other ones as well where you can check your stats for your droid and buy new stuff and repair things and things like that. So the presentation is actually quite nice, and the whole thing, works very well. That's for me, but it was just that lack of goal. If it had something, a clear end goal to get somewhere, to do something, to be something, I would have probably liked this a bit more, but it just seems to go on and on and on. And that for me was, you can only take so much of that. You just feel like you're just amassing money for nothing, which I don't know, is that, I don't know what that is, but that's what it is. And so I just got a bit bored after a while, but my time with it I quite enjoyed, but just didn't have anything to do. What about you?
Yeah, interesting concept this. I didn't think much to the Fred Gray music. It's all right, kind of wibbly wobbly stuff, but it's all right. Graphics are nice. It looked the part. The scrolling effects on the second screen, once I'd figured out how to get there with your help. So I gave it a go. I think, like you, there's a game here. It just lacks the kind of goals that a game needs. And I think, in actuality, if I was honest, this game is out of its time. If you took this game out of this time and put it onto a mobile app, and so it was touchscreen, you could tap things and jump around, I think this would be far more successful. And games of that type tend to survive even on a score-based idea on a mobile application, like obviously an Apple Arcade game or something like that. So I think there's definitely some mileage in the actual design of the game and the idea of it. And I think even in the way it plays out would work on a touchscreen. And I think that's perhaps what it's lacking is the interface. I think it's maybe the interface and the desire of the designer is a little bit ahead of its time. And because they don't have those abilities to do those things, and because it doesn't have that, it feels more laborious than it needs to be. And because it feels more laborious than it needs to be, it makes the game objective feel longer away than it should. If you were able to just tap and flick and move and jump about quicker on a small screen like an iPhone or an iPad or something like that, I think it would feel more of a cohesive experience that you could dive in and out of. You wouldn't have to go back. You could just pick up where you left off and deliver a bit more mail. And I think I think this is a mobile game that never was. And in that respect, I think from game designing point of view, this is great. Graphically, it's quite nice. That scrolling effect in the second stage between, when you dive in between, is a very nice effect considering the vertical scrolling nature of it and everything else. There's a lot to like here. And I think that you say when it's outside of that, the interface itself where you're on the cube, modern technology being what it was, you can imagine how easy that would be to make on a modern device. So on the C64, you get kind of a nearly ran. But it kind of works. I think there's an over-reliance on iconic UI and UX, which lends itself to someone tapping a screen more than using a joystick.
Yep.
But take away those, looking at the constraints of the 8-bit platform that it's on, it's not bad. Taking it outside of that game and placing it on a modern device, and you've got a much better game, which tells you that the game itself isn't a bad thing. So I quite liked it. I think this is something that I think people should go and have a look at. It was what I avoided when it came out, not because of any other reason. I think the idea of it didn't appeal to me in the face of a lot of other games coming out at the time. Bear in mind that I was a big sucker for your Gauntlets of this world, as much as we obviously discovered they were awful. It's a shame. I wish I'd have spent more time thinking about some of the games in between the cracks and less time about the games that were really obvious, because the games like Infodroid slipped off my radar, and I perhaps regret that because I think it would have been something I'd have liked. I did enjoy my time with it. It took a visit and then a revisit to this on the back of a conversation we had to get into it and enjoy it more. Because my first instincts were what the hell is this? And it kind of put me off. Its perseverance is a little bit, and a bit of guidance And once you get that, I think you're off. But I think this is an iOS or an Android game that never was. And I think in that instance, there's something there. There's something with it. It's worth looking at.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, actually. It didn't occur to me that it would work that way. And that kind of endless progression of just, dropping in once a day or something like that, just to sort of upstay, what's the daily quest, what's the daily mail, would work quite well.
Yeah.
And I think the interface, swiping left to right, just moving your droid around, upgrading, getting new stuff. I think you're right. I think there's a decent idea there, which is what I said. There is a good idea there. Just as it stands on this platform, it just runs out of steam a bit quick, after a little while.
I think it's made laborious by its limitations, and I think you take those limitations, some of them away, and I think you find the game is. I think, and I'm sure it would be bare out if someone ever did it. The limitations are what's making it feel like a laborious journey, which it wouldn't be if you could just do things quicker.
Yeah, you're right. I like that. Yeah, it's a good idea. 79%. That's probably about right for where this was. And there was kind of a bit of a split on the review in the
there was magazine, good score though, considering that split. Because I thought because there was these games do have their lovers and haters. It reminds me the kind of game logic of that Papers, Please kind of idea. That's repetitive and simple, and the ideas, but underneath it, there's a game that's playable and attractive for reasons like as much as it's nothing like Infodroid, but those mobile games where they're endless runner type games where you keep going back to them, and there is a reason for that.
No, I like that. Yeah, Infodroid is interesting experiment, which I think we both were quite positive on. It's good, cool stuff. There we go, Infodroid. All right, so what we got coming up next? More delivery shenanigans. So Graham, we have another. Is this our third arcade conversion this episode?
Yeah.
It is indeed. So please tell us all about the life of a Paperboy.
So this was a surprise arcade hit, wasn't it? Because it had bicycle handlebars on the arcade. This is an Atari/Midway game released 1985. You take on the role of the said Paperboy, and you cycle upwards in a kind of isometric view-ish. So upwards, but
absolutely.
It's isometric, I think, isn't it? But so up and to the right, back and to the right, up and to the right, JFK style.
Up and to the right, yeah.
So you're cycling along, and the idea is you've got to throw newspapers into the newspaper delivery slots. It's not something that's even familiar in the world of the UK, the idea of someone who's cycling along throwing newspapers at your doorstep. But in the US, this is a thing. In the UK, we walked up to the door. I had a what we called the Target in Grimsby. I don't know what you call it elsewhere, but we had a local newspaper, but it wasn't the main one. I think you did the Telegraph delivery.
I was a Paperboy, yes.
So we were both Paperboy in our times, and we walked up with a great big massive side bag full of heavy papers, which made you gave you a fiddler crab sort of structure as a young teen. Like one massively strong, powerful arm, one limpy, weak one, for many reasons beyond that, but never mind that. Anyway. The long and the short of it all is that in this game you are cycling along American style, throwing the newspapers, and you have to deliver newspapers to the people who subscribed. Those have got little mailboxes, and you have to target those with your newspaper. For the ones that haven't subscribed, those are along your paper route. You can throw papers in, smash the windows, and cause mischief and mayhem with them. Along the way, there are hazards and things to get out of the way from. You can mount the pavement. There's cars coming at you. There's people jogging. There's all sorts of different little obstacles. People with lawnmowers. Children on soapboxes, skateboard riders, and just stuff that gets in the way, and manhole covers and things. And the idea is you've got to kind of navigate your way through this scrolling landscape of destruction and mayhem, trying to deliver your papers and causing mayhem where you can. And then insert arcade logic. So then you go through that again. If you get to the end, you go through almost a stunt course, really, like a bonus round, and you go through that. You get through that. Then it's, you go up a level essentially, and then it's kind of more of the same, but things are a little bit harder. You still got to deliver to the same amount of subscribers. You get slightly more, I think, on the next level, and so it goes on. And if you miss any, then you lose out, and eventually you either run out of lives or run out of subscribers, and then it's game over. So you've got this kind of logic. Now the graphics, it's an arcade game, so the graphics are this speech, there's good sound effects, there's a handlebar control system on the arcade itself. It's famous for it. So you can't really miss Paperboy in the arcade. So this is a elite version of the arcade game.
Yep.
And it suffers from the same problem that we've noted. And I think this is actually going to become the thing. This is going to become a problem of arcade conversions, in that some arcades, we've said, there are some that are too big and too difficult and too complex to manufacture in an 8-bit format, and we're going to come across these with other ones. And there are some that simply have too much in the actual system itself to really replicate in a meaningful way. Now, that doesn't mean to say that Paperboy isn't bad, is terrible, because it's not bad. It's Paperboy on an 8-bit scale. So you get the kind of scrolling landscape, you can deliver papers, there's some sort of set piece obstacles that kind of occur, and they occur in kind of an obvious way. So the look and the graphics are kind of almost there. You're controlling it with the joystick, not handlebars, and probably a little bit easier than the handlebars from the arcade, which are actually quite hard to manage because you don't really steer that way on a bike. It's kind of weird. So some of the events in the game are kind of weirdly staged. The game itself is really hard to play. The original arcade was hard, but I think the C64 version is very unforgiving in almost every way. And so it's a bit of a memory game to remember your routes and the speed. You can control the speed of the cyclist by pushing up and down, and obviously you dodge left and right. The responsive controls are lacking somewhat in this. The graphics are okay, but some of the obstacles feel weirdly staged and kind of wait for you to appear and then kind of happen, and it just feels a little bit... It doesn't feel like... It lacks the spontaneity of a game like Paperboy. Paperboy is kind of a game where stuff is happening in the street and you've got to navigate your way around. But as you approach, if someone's just kind of waiting there and then starts jogging, it's kind of like, okay, let me avoid the jogger then. And there's just little bits in the 8-bit version that happen like that all the way through. The arcade had speech and all these other cool graphics and sounds. This is lacking those things. So you're really reliant on the gameplay then. If you take away the trimmings that the arcade brings, if you take away the fidelity and the sounds and all those things, you're really relying on the arcade to have enough gameplay to carry you through. And I don't believe Paperboy does. I think without those things that attract you to the arcade experience, without that, what you end up with is this kind of a dull cycling, avoid the stuff game. And because of that, I think it just, for me, it just lacked something that made it feel interesting. Now, sound and everything else is kind of interesting. Weirdly, when you first start the game, for me, I don't know if this was the same for you, the music was like a babble. It was like, I'm not sure if that's the quirk of the version we've got or that's how it is. The in-game music was fine, and that's out of the arcade now. But the title screen music was, and you play this over a week, so it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By the way, when you get to the end of that, it just repeats. That's the arcade. The arcade does the same. So there's no real payoff for this, which is kind of the killer. So I just think that these arcade games lend themselves to a coin-op logic, pumping money in to try and get a bit further, and when you've finished it, you've done it, and that's it. You're never going to spend any money again. The C64 version, because it's endless and because you can just keep trying, eventually you're just going to loop round it, and then what? This is a full-price game as well, $9.95, and I think the review gave it 44%, and I think that's probably a little bit generous, but about right generous. So for me, it's another arcade license by Elite, which they've done a disservice to by actually making... I think that they could have done with rethinking the plan, make it a bit smaller, try and go for less arcade fidelity, just try and make it a bit more your own. Maybe a bit more like Ghosts and Goblins, just do something with it that makes it a little bit less trying to copy the arcade on an 8-bit machine, which is lacking. But what did you think? Yeah,
you've pretty much hit most of the points I was going to say. My first comment is just stop converting everything. Just stop it.
Yeah.
This is what we said about Gauntlet, really. It's a conversion of the arcade game that's built upon the handlebar controller. There's another example of an arcade game that should have been left in the arcade because it's, like Gauntlet, it was a thing you saw and was like, oh, that looks unlike anything I've ever seen before. I get to, well, obviously we'd all seen bikes, but, it was something new in the arcade system. So there was something for us to go at, and it was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. But you take all that away. Okay, so let's look at this version. The scrolling's okay, but as you said, it feels really cramped. They don't feel like much play space. And I had a look at the arcade version, and you only seem to have like a third or a quarter of the screen to play in on this, because half it's more than half it's taken up by the houses. That doesn't seem that bad in the arcade version. And this is probably due to the machine's resolution. Again, you're just playing against the machine here. And you take all that, the arcade game has its nice tunes, its arcadey sound effects, those Atari sound effects, those, the visuals are nice, all the cool stuff about it, and it looks bright and sparkly. You take all that away, all that razzmatazz and everything away from it, and actually what you realise is that Paperboy is a boring game.
Yeah.
And and what you have here is £10 worth of boring, because it just, like you said, the rote repetition. Like you said, the arcade game feels kind of organic. Like things are happening, not waiting for you to turn up and then happen. And that's a massive problem. It's and you can just basically navigate in it by just basically stopping most of the time, just waiting for the hazard to bugger off.
Yeah.
And so there's no real trick or chore to this, and I just found it really dull. I didn't like it back then. I thought it was a poor conversion. I don't like the color scheme. There's way too. It's like Breakthru. There's way too much yellow.
Yeah.
It just feels. It doesn't feel nice or anything. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look good. All I can say is the scrolling's okay. I did find it interesting that, and I'm going to put this here purposely next to each other, so Paperboy and Infodroid seem to be a fascination with delivering stuff in games. Which is, colouring me baffled. I don't know why. But if you look at these two sort of games, one plays, I know it's not, we said, not completely hits the system strengths with the Commodore 64, but Infodroid does a better job of basing a game around delivery and a thing of delivering stuff, whereas Paperboy in the arcade, nice little arcade, and I would tire of Paperboy in the arcade pretty quickly. It was a 10p machine.
Exactly.
It would never suck more than 10p out of me, because I'd play it, get frustrated, maybe get to the second day or something, and then that would be that. And I would never feel like I particularly enjoyed my time doing it. I'd gone past it looks nice, doesn't it, at the time? It looks really cool. But then it would be like, nah, I'm going to go back and play Green Beret or something, or something else. And when you put that back into the Commodore 64 and at home, nah, you realise that there's nothing there.
No,
and I don't particularly like it.
I think this is gradually going to become more of a theme, because I think in truth the arcades now are on the 68,000 processor sets.
Yes, they are, yeah.
And so, and a lot of them are going to be that, if not, greater than, or maybe even dual 68,000s. And we're still on the older Commodore, we're on the 8-bit chips here. The 6502 and its comparative, graphics chips and everything in the Commodore are not for the old Mr. Do and the old Pac-Mans and the old stuff like that, and Donkey Kongs maybe. But, as you head into this territory with these enormous arcades with complex controls, the machine's going to really start to show its age. And it does quickly. Yeah,
this was actually something I did actually mean to say on our awards show. And I was trying to remember something towards the end that I wanted to include. And this was the actual point I wanted to sort of talk about, was the difference in technologies that we will be trying to shove into the Commodore 64 is, and I was going to say 1987 is going to start to show that up very strongly. And we've already seen it, not just Dragon's Lair, but I know that was 1983, but it's a different kettle of fish, but certainly with Gauntlet, certainly with this, and even Breakthru, Galavan, we're just seeing these games where it's like poor imitations, and so you have to, and it just smacks of, at the time you're like, I could play it at my house, I could play it at home. Well, yeah, you can, but it's, I don't know whether it's just, obviously whether we need to take into effect different time and stuff, but I think at this point, it's not a particularly good conversion, and even so, Zapped gave it 40%, 44%, so it wasn't even regarded well then. No, and I think you're right. I think there is some mileage in looking at that, the whole notion of the home version of something, which stems right back to the Atari 2600 and the Atari Pong machines. They were genuinely designed as home versions of an arcade, but there was even then there was a differentiation, but the core game was simple enough to be able to get away with it. Now, we're heading into a territory, and we're going to come across it, without wanting to preempt episodes and our views on things. But we're heading towards arcades like Space Harrier and others, and we're going to head into this territory where 8-bit versions of these things are simply not going to be able to represent some of it in the way that perhaps you used to. And the idea of the bit of home version being all not comparable, but at least passable. It's starting to get to the point when, some of these licensed games like this one, and 1942 was similar, and a few of the others, where it just feels, because they got away with it with Commando to some extent, and a few of the others, and Ghosts and Goblins to some extent, but you're starting to not get away with it, Little sprites and platformers and running about maybe on the Commodore 64, but you're getting into complex territory now, these arcades, and I think they're going to, they do end up in hot water with it. Some of them get away with it, some of them don't. I think you've got a really salient point, though. I think you're absolutely right. It's not just. It's not. I mean, this is not just a Commodore 64 thing. I think you can go, if you go back further and you look at the Atari 2600 version of Space Invaders, or what happened with Pac-Man. And Pac-Man, being part of the cause of the crash in the US in 83. That was the 2600 came out in when was it, 87? Sorry, 77.
Yeah.
77, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So Pac-Man was, Pac-Man, with 2-3 years later, and Space Invaders 2-3 years later. And so trying to sort of cram those games onto that 2600 led to nightmarish versions of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, in a 1K version.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So this is a generational thing that seems to be happening. It's like machines come out and then they try and keep up with technology because there's a huge user base to them. And I get it. So I understand what Elite are doing. It's just not it's not good for the end consumer.
I think if we go back to like I say, with the Atari 2600 and those home versions of things were passable. They weren't great, and yes, they were responsible for all sorts of issues, partly because there was a eventual acknowledgement that the arcade games that they were emulating, the home console versions were a pale imitation and not well done, and it culminates in Pac-Man and things like that. Space Invaders maybe just got away with it. But these, you're talking 16-bit versus 8-bit. There's a world of difference between those two things. And just in terms of the processor speed and its capabilities, let alone that the fact they were bolting multiple processors together for these arcades, so it was no longer one chip running the show. In Gauntlet, the sound, as we've recently spoke about with Chris, the sound in there was multiple chips. It wasn't just one sound chip, one graphics chip, and it's a 68,000 processor, 3 different sound chips, multiple graphics chips. You're starting to get to the point when converting them is going to be, you're going to feel as a programmer like you're doing a disservice to the games, and they must have felt that during the making of this particular game, because I'm not a huge fan of the Paperboy arcade at all. I have to say, I like you, I find it frustrating experience at best, and still do. And I played on the one that they've got in the arcade club. And again, and even for free, it's annoying. So, and so this never really held a lot of fascination for me, but we're going to come across this. We are, there's other skateboarding games that we're going to come across, 720 Degrees and stuff like that, which again, as we'll discover, big arcades, big ideas. The C64 starting to look old with some of these games. And, this is where the Amiga exists, I think. But, obviously we'll come to that when we come to that. But yeah, I think it's a really salient, interesting point, actually. And something we maybe will discuss in more depth in our Patreon at some point, maybe for our Patreon subscribers. So
maybe.
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? That's it. Paperboy. It's led down an interesting alley, but there you go.
Yes. So unfortunately, you're not going to get a paper delivered to that alley. It'll be smashed through your window.
No. If I throw a paper at you, it's going to end up somewhere painful.
Yes. Somewhere deep and southern.
Absolutely. And not even a. You're going to need some oil and a 6/10 wrench to get that out.
Duke of oil, yeah.
All right, that's Paperboy. Let's move on. We've got a couple more games left. Have we got 2? How many have we got left?
2 more left.
Two more left, so let's get on to our next one. Which is a budget title, and that title is Storm. So this is budget Gauntlet. So this really is glove. This is a fingerless glove. This is a fingerless glove. That's my next written one. I've written.
I wrote that.
This is a fingerless glove. All right. So
who wrote that?
Who is Storm the Barbarian? Storm the Barbarian, not to be confused with Conan, is off doing stuff when Una come. One cum in it. I was like unicorn. It's not to be confused with Una Stubbs though, or Aunt Sally.
No.
Unicum kidnaps Storm's girlfriend, Mrs. Partner, whatever. So he teams up with Agravian the Undead.
That you do.
To head off to rescue her. So what we have here is a top-down Gauntlet style game. It's a flick screen affair though. It's more reminiscent of Wizard's Lair, that kind of thing. Because when I look back at Wizard's Lair, that kind of has that sort of feel. Anyway, this is way much worse though because because of one main thing really, and that's the controls. So the controls are tank-like, in that you rotate 90 degrees right, left, and then use up and down for forward and back. I don't know why. I don't understand. I literally couldn't get my head around why that was. Someone thought that was a convenient way to control this because it just ruins it. Not there's a lot to ruin. You shoot with the fire button, which allows you to take out the nasties, which spawn from spawners in the room. Because of the rotational control system, though, it just becomes really annoying to play through. It reminded me of that other one. What's that crappy other rubbish rotational nightmare? Nomad.
Oh god, yeah, it was Nomad, wasn't it? That had the crap control.
So it's really annoying to play through. The rooms are dull. The graphics are just I couldn't make out what they were half the time.
Bitty.
I just blocky and horrible and nondescript and things and stuff, and I couldn't work out whether something I could pick up, whether it was a spawner. It was all just horrible, and it's all very grid based and square based, isn't it? It's all that grid.
Yeah.
You move on a grid. It's horrible. Just I grew very bored of trying to rescue Storm's misses and turned it off very quickly, pretty much. That was rubbish. It does have a nice Dave Whittaker tune though.
Yes.
And also, interestingly, I don't know if you noticed this, but this is converted by Mr. Jim Deathwake Bagley.
Okay, Mr. Bagooly's back.
Mr. Bagooly after Deathwake, another interesting sounding game which wasn't. And Storm, about top-down Gauntlet with barbarians. Sounds interesting, but I don't know. But I think this is a Spectrum conversion, and maybe that's why it's rotational controls, because it's played with keys, maybe. But I think they should have taken advantage of what the C64 has on tap, which is a bloody joystick, and made it left, right, up and down. But I think if you'd have done that, it would have revealed that this game would have been remarkably easy, and there'd have been no challenge to it whatsoever. So the difficulty in this is built around that crap control system.
Yeah.
And ultimately, even for £2, I mean, it's got 32%, and I'm not going to argue with that. Probably even lower. I hated this. Thought it was rubbish. You?
I remembered it fondly because I think I like the music, as we spoke about earlier. Nice music, catchy, and it tainted my memories of the game once I'd taken my music spectacles off. And I got past the idea that there was an enemy in it called Unicum, which was kind of like, ew. Just
Ooh, Aunt Sally.
This is the vogue at the moment. The kind of the Gauntlet-esque top-down sort of dungeon crawler style. Gauntlet's out there, Druid's out there. We're going to come across another one shortly. So you know what? If you're going to do this, then you need to do it pretty good, because even Gauntlet's better than this god awful nonsense. Just don't. Look, I'm going to keep this simple. This is car boot Gauntlet. Okay, so it's $1.99. It's unneeded at the moment. Nobody asked for a cheap Gauntlet. There's already Gauntlet, there's already Druid. They're not cheap, but they're better than this. This has got bitty, scribbly graphics, almost scribbled. They look messy, and then you've got rotational controls, which is just stupid. So the music's nice, but in order to enjoy this, you'd have to A, really like shit Gauntlet, and B, like rotational controls. I don't like either. So it's just crap, absolute crap. The music is the only saving grace, but just do yourself a favour. Go to HV SIDS or YouTube. Just look for the Storm C64 music. Listen to it. Don't play the game. Don't do that to yourself. No. There's nothing about rotationally trying to navigate around a maze and shoot things that look like peanuts. In a game where your wife Kareen's been abducted by somebody called Unicum. Nothing good can come from you experiencing that other than the music. So just go for the music. Keep it nice and light. It's like if you made yourself some nice toast, you wouldn't smother it with dog shit and eat it. So don't. Just eat the toast. Enjoy the toast. Love the toast. Have a crumpet, even. But don't smother it with shit, and that's what this would be. So that's what I think of you, Harvey. Awful. Crap. $1.99 is too much for that. 32% is way, way more than I'd have given it. I'd have given it maybe 10% for the music. The rest can get lost.
Yeah, I'm trying to find if it was a Spectrum conversion. I can see it's on the Atari and the C16, which it looks exactly the
That's more
specs.
likely that it's a C16 conversion, because that would explain
it is on the Spectrum.
Yeah, you're not kidding. It's definitely on a Spectrum of some kind.
Yeah, Storm. Oh God, that's bad.
Yeah, it's not a great game.
But I think I won't be surprised if this is where it started out its life, unless it's got it just got one of those soundtracks. I remember it now. It's catchy. It's good. But Dave Whittaker was a master of those short, catchy tunes.
Well, short is the word, because I've noticed this with Dave Whittaker.
They're about a minute and a half long.
They're all, he was born in the Beatles era. That guy, he keeps it short to the point. Minute and a half. So you get it. Boom. Loop.
They're Unicum tunes.
Yeah, they are. And I'd rather that to some extent than
out.
Or go hog wild and go for an 11-minute parallax. That would at least made the purchase of $1.99 worthwhile. But anyway, tragedy really. This crap.
Yeah, Storm is just rubbish. I really didn't like it.
Nope.
So there we go. One game left. What we got coming up? Well, Graham, tell us. You can take us back once again to the world of Orb. And tell us about Avenger.
So this is the yeah, good old. It's the sequel to Way of the Tiger. Yaemon, the Grandmaster of Flame, is the villain of the piece in this one. He's killed your foster father, Nayajish, and stolen the scrolls of Ketsuin. These ninja games have a lot of this. No, the scrolls of Ketsuin have been stolen by Ninjash, the father of Magalula, and it doesn't matter all of that, really. What is this, really? It's a top-down Gauntlet style, Druid style, Gauntlet style. And when I say Gauntlet style, I'm going to start using, I'd say Druid more than Gauntlet this. It's bigger sprites.
Yeah, this is closer to Druid,
This is closer to Druid. So it's a scrolly flip screen type affair, which is actually a bit annoying about this, a little bit. Because I think if it had just
handy though to get rid of monsters.
It is, but if it had just stuck to one of them, I think it would have worked better as a scroller than a. Anyway, it does what it does. It flips around. So you play the ninja, of course, and you've got to recover the scrolls and avenge your father's death. So you're seen from that kind of Gauntlet-esque view, Druid view, top-down kind of view. The sprites and the graphics are nice and colourful, nice size. So you start outside the keep, and you've initially got to get around the grounds, find enough keys to go through the locked doors and navigate your way around the sort of guards. They kind of spawn in a similar way to Druid. It feels a bit like more like Druid, really. This. So you got to navigate your way around, pick up the treasure, pick up the things. Then there's little staircases. You go down there, and you end up with more levels. The map's quite extensive for this. I have to say, it's a big old map. And there's other things to sort of fight off in there. You can pick up different weapons, including shuriken, stars, and things like that, which you can throw, or you can fight. Good old-fashioned ninja style, which is bare hands and stuff like that. And you can summon energy as well from an energy recharge from Quan, but you can only do that limited number of times. So graphically, I thought this is actually nice look. This is a nice looking game, all in all. The package is nice. The music's Ben Daglish again. It's nice. It's he's very competent at hitting Oriental style music right on the head really well. We'll discover this later down the line, massively so, but. For this, he really gets it right. And there's a reason why in the Bedroom to Billionaires movie, the documentary, that Ben's piece for that is the kind of Japanese sounding one, the ding 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 ding. He just knows how to do that kind of stuff really well. It suits this sort of stuff. So sound-wise, sound effects-wise, this is all good. Now, the problem with this game is that it has a bit of a weird difficulty spike. The enemies in of themselves aren't difficult because you get quite a lot of energy and quite a lot of life. You've got these little displays like a little face and there's little dots around it, and you work your way through them, and it's like an energy meter, and it gradually takes it down. So you've got all that. But if you collect keys in this game, and I mean, it didn't really vary from the different versions that I tried. If you get the keys and open the wrong doors, you are stuck. You have to restart the game, and because you've opened the wrong doors, and that's a little bit silly. Now, I don't know how you get around that in a game like this, really, other than either you provide more keys, or the keys respawn, or there's something that allows you to get through in a different way. But because that exists in this game, it has actually a barrier. I spent a fair bit of time just once I'd opened the wrong door, stuck, wandering around, just going through the same thing, looking at the different things, thinking, how do I get down to those bits? And restarting it, and then going on YouTube, and thanks to you, and finding a video that actually showed me that actually you go through there and you do this and you do that. Okay, that's fine. And it did open the door. And I think the thing is, that aside, which is a silly thing to happen in a game like this, eventually I think you would get there. And because of that, because there is a repeatability to this game, which the other Way of the Tiger game simply didn't have. This is way better in the other Way of the Tiger games. This is in like a much better league and division of that kind of game. Because it's not reliant on the fighting all the time. It's actually reliant on scrabbling around, finding stuff, which is kind of nice. The one thing it lacks, I think, is its reliance on ninja type stuff. So sneaking around, not being seen, and hiding in the shadows. Those things are missing from this game, which seems really odd, because those things, I think, would have been fairly easy to add. If there'd have been shaded areas of the landscape that you could go in and hide, a bit like, because some of the modern games of this type do that. The stealth games, you can go and hide in the shadows and they can't see you. And there's a ninja game that you showed me on the Xbox 360, I can't remember what it's called now, where you can do that, where you can just sort of hide in the shadows of different levels. I can't remember what it's called now. It's like a third-person type game.
Tenchu, probably?
Tenchu, something like that. Tenchu Z or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a nice Druid-based ninja game here. It's not bad. And it links itself just about to the complexities of the world of the Way of the Tiger. It links it in just enough so it's not over the top and there is a playable game. I think it's lacking the things that make a ninja game about ninjas, which is what the other game did. But at least you've got a bit of a quest mentality and a bit of a dungeon crawler, which is odd for a ninja game, but okay. And I think because it's got those things, it just about gets away with it. And the graphics are quite nice on it. And the music's good. So I enjoyed it. And I did go back with it. And I did try and repeat it. I was frustrated initially. But I thought, you know what? There's something about it that makes me want to go back. It's not a bad old game, this. So I thought it's quite nice in that respect. A bit of trial and error never hurt anybody, maybe, in this. What did you think?
Yeah, pretty much bang on. We seem to be in agreement with a lot of these games. I think we know when something's good and when something's bad. So I quite like they have used the source material in a more interesting way than that rubbish way, the Tiger game. So yeah, like I said, it's a top-down druid-style adventure. I wonder if these were drawing from thingy. I was just checking out the Legend of Zelda, because the original Legend of Zelda is out by now.
Could have.
But obviously that's top-down flick screen, so there's probably some of that maybe filtering across. I don't know whether they've even seen these things. I mean, obviously when we spoke to John Harry, the Catalight thing, he never played a Metroid game, but how these sort of ideas are percolating, these top-down adventure type things. But yeah, so this is a top-down druid style, and you charge about the place, and it is as you said, it's a game about finding keys.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why.
Well, because Gauntlet's a game about finding keys.
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, I hadn't made that connection, but yeah, it's bloody obvious when I think about it, isn't it? Yeah. But Gauntlet always has a key to open. The keys are there, and it's well designed.
You can wait in Gauntlet, and the doors will open if you wait long enough.
And the doors will open. But this is like, it doesn't have, you get one key, and it doesn't have two doors to open. One is the right way, one is the wrong way, and if you go the wrong way, you're stuck. Which is stupid. I mean, I don't mind. There should have been ways and ways. It should have been like, oh, you go this way and it's the easy way. You go this way, it's the hard way. You'll still end up at the same place. So the level design should have allowed for that. It's like two doors. One
scale
will
the
go quick.
walls, or ninja style. You could either sneaky with keys or go in a more brutal but a more ninja like. Reliant on a more stealth and more opportunity. That would have made more sense to me.
Or a room like with loads more spikes in the spikes in the floor and stuff that was harder to navigate.
To rely on your ninja skills and things like that. Yeah, totally.
But you should have been able to end up at the same place no matter which door you open, and I think that's a really bad piece of design. Really bad. And I have sort of painted myself into a corner, as other people did notion when I moaned about Ninja. And that it was ninjas in daylight, and then I've realised that every ninja game we get is in bloody daylight. Even the last ninja's in daylight.
Yeah, but you won't see him.
Yes, but they're in daylight. They're wearing black, don't work. So, unfortunately, I agree. If they'd have done a bit of stealth in this, they'd have put it at night. They could have done it at night with blues and dark colours and things like that. It would have been a bit more interesting. But yeah, it's okay. It's quite nice. It's a big game, but it's a rote game. Because it's just one route.
Yes.
So you're just finding key, open door, go that way, do this, do that, find this, do that, find that, do that. And it's just a trial and error game.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a good thing. You should be able to complete this on your first go, and you have got no chance.
No way.
No way in hell. Even if you look through it or whatever, and you manage to, if you've got the skills, you should be able to do it. But a trial and error of which door do I open? Well, even if there was some sign above it, something sort of you could read the screen and go, oh, that's the right way, or that's a bone, that's a treasure room, that's not a way to go. I'll come back there later. Something or other that showed that was not the way, or some message saying you're gonna be careful with your keys, follow the one route, and there was something that showed you the one route. Because it's still an adventure trying to figure your way through and fighting stuff and everything. Finding the extra key should have been able to go back and thingy it, or have different keys.
Yeah,
would have been a handy way. Silver keys for the main doors. And golden keys for the treasure doors.
Yeah.
So you can't, it's a simple thing.
Yeah.
It's not hard to think of these things.
And that goes way wrong in Booty, but it is simple.
Yeah. But if you have two types of key, one is the...
gold, silver, bronze, silver, totally.
Easy. And so you could have easily sort of designed it around that.
And we're just putting this out there, rely on your ninja lockpicking skills, which may take more time and take more health, but just put it out there, maybe. Game design has been
either that, yes, anything really, or have windows you could smash through, but it alerts guards, whatever. There's loads of things, but I just think that part of this game is what lets it down for me. It just feels a bit, it's one route, and I would have liked a bit more freedom. But as it is, it looks nice, it plays nice, it's got a really good tune. I didn't hate it. I just was I think it's worse sometimes to be disappointed because I was enjoying my time with it, and then that reared its head and made me go, oh. And I think that's it's a trickier thing to sort of overcome, because it's something like Storm, you're just like, this is rubbish. Something like this is like, I'm enjoying this, and suddenly, boom, we've designed this badly, and that's harder to That's how to sometimes accept because you are enjoying it. But I didn't dislike it. I think 86% is probably about right. I think I would put it up there. But that's where I landed on it.
Certainly one of the better. Since Druid, it's not as good as Druid, but it's at least graphically in the same sort of ballpark. It's certainly better than Gauntlet. So
way better than Gauntlet. Yeah, I'm far more enjoying my time with this. Yes, very much so. So, there we go. Yeah, that's Avenger, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's it.
There can be only Quan.
Jesus Christ. I'm just melting into the shadows on that one. Don't look at me.
Where's he gone? Blowpipe. Oh! Ninjas don't say the weapon they're firing when they fire them, though, just so you know that. They don't just go, blowpipe.
They should do, though.
Who said, did someone just say blowpipe? Ow!
Shuriken!
Sword!
Nunchuk! Ah!
Tabby boot! Ow! Really hurts.
Caltrops!
Toe prodded me right in the balls. You bloody
ninja,
you ninja twat.
Oh, I'd love to call someone a ninja twat.
That really hurt you, ninja twat. It was meant to.
What are
you doing? Take your bloody shuriken. That really hurt, that did. You broke the skin and everything.
Absolutely. I might need a tetanus.
You're putting all in my jeans, you bastard. It's meant to kill you. Twat. Stop talking like that. You're not a ninja. And the thing is, we've actually had this conversation for real with a person.
You know that, right?
We have.
Yeah.
And I've actually used that person's ninja sword to both decapitate Jean-Claude Van Damme and cut Nigel Mansell's top lip. So not for reals is on posters. It's a long, drawn out, painful story. I'm not going into
That's
right
because
now.
that sword was so sharp.
God, that's going to live with me forever, that statement. Is that we've got that on video somewhere, haven't we, as well? Haven't we?
I don't know. I don't know if we still have that.
God, then we video recorded that. God's sake. Things you say.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. I think that's that.
That's it.
If you haven't already, then go sign up to our Patreon. That'd be nice of you.
Yes,
cool.
go do that. And you'll enjoy some delicious, sparkly, witty content on the Discord servers and all sorts of stuff. There's some cool things going on in there.
Well, we've put up, you've already, on the Discord, you've already put up Fighting Warrior Redux for the Crapvert, haven't you? And you've also done one for the Mumbles advert as well. Which is
and the V one was already up there. We put that up as well. So and that was done at request. The Mumbles one, by the way. That was a request from one of our Patreons. One of our patrons requested that we did an advert Redux, and hey presto, it happened. That's the power of Patreon right there.
It is. There's also, as well, we've just put our first bit of Patreon content as well, which is an interview with John Hare.
Exclusive interview, yeah.
An exclusive interview with John Hare, half of Sensible Software, where we find out exactly what wallpaper Chris Yates had.
We do.
And if you want to know, then you know what to do.
You do know what to do.
You do know what to do. So there you go. I'll not say any more about it. Let's just go through what games have we looked at in this episode, Graham. We've looked at loads. 13 in precise.
13 so far.
In the next two episodes, we will still have 14 in each of these big, massive Lord of the Rings. So far, we've just set out and we're in sight of Mordor. Our feet are sore, and Graham has been given the magic rope by Galadriel.
Oh, that'll do. I like Galadriel.
Well, she's giving you some magic rope. Oh. I'm not saying you're Sam. You can be Sam if you want. I don't mind. I don't want to be Frodo. Should I be Frodo? I don't think I should.
I think you should. You'd be. You've got a beard. I ain't got a beard. I'm more like Sam, really. I'm not.
Frodo doesn't have a beard.
I'm not from the West Country, as it were, but, you know.
No,
Mr. Frodo. No, clearly I'm not.
Yeah, that's it. That's him. Right, what have we looked at today? We've looked at Gauntlet, which we were disappointed in. Highlander, which we were had our expectations confirmed.
Shit.
Harvey Headbanger, which is just a concept that is strange.
Eggs. It's the eggy game.
Eggs on a climbing frame.
Drunk eggs.
Climbing frame eggs.
Drunken eggs.
It's the drunken eggs, yeah. They're out climbing in the garden of the sideways egg. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
We got disappointed with the depth of Hyperball. We thought Skyrunner was technically very clever, but unfortunately it was just very dull. Breakthru was an abomination. Heartland was twee. We had a bit of a split opinion on that. Firelord was just more Robin the Wood Saberwolf with some bartering and stealing involved. Psycastria was an affront. Infodroid was good. A good idea ahead of its time, we thought. But we still liked it. Paperboy was an arcade conversion that shouldn't have been again. Storm is stupid and pointless and rotational. What was that thing I said to you when we chat? Rotational something or other. Oh, it's lost me now. There's been too much stuff.
I sent you a picture of Lord Humongous, who does not like rotational games.
Rotation. He just wants rotational gasoline.
Yeah, that's right. It was. We decided we were going to do Lord Humongous's game design tips. We might still do that. Be on the Patreon if you anyway.
Probably. And finally, we rounded up with Avenger. And as Graham aptly put, there can be only Quan, which I think sums that game up. I like that. Quan?
The vegetarian Avenger, yeah, Quan.
A veggie.
A veggie, yeah.
So it works. So I think there you go. We're going to save our crap verts. We've got some crap verts, but we're going to save them for the ending of the trilogy. So you won't know when the ending comes, just like in Return of the King.
That's it.
And so we're going to save them for then.
It's a triple episode. Do you know what that means?
What?
Triple episode. Triple B. Triple.
I'm not putting it in. I won't do it. I won't. My precious, I'm not doing it. Right. On that note, on that Calibos note, I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham Calibossinova Raddings.
And we have been zapped to the Clash of the Titans past. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye. Actually, no, stop.
Wait.
We won't see you next week.
No.
No, we're just going to save this to the last. We are taking 2 weeks off because this is coming out on the 13th of December. So we are taking 2 weeks off for Christmas. So there will be no episodes, I'm afraid. So for the, just like you'll have to wait for the next year for the next parts. Just like Pete Jackson made us wait. So next episode after this will be the 3rd of January.
Believe so, yeah.
Let me have a check, yeah.
So episode 45 will be the 3rd of January, yeah, Monday the 3rd, yeah.
Yes, just to give us a bit of a break over Christmas. We've been, solidly putting these out every week without a break since February 1st. We haven't missed one. And so we're going to take a bit of a gap and a breather and see where we go. But we're carrying on, obviously. We're not going anywhere. It's just we're going to give ourselves a bit of a Christmas break. And so on that note... On that Christmassy note, we will see you in the new year. So once again, I have been Adrian Santa Claus Mills.
And I have been Graham Christmas Elf Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Manger. And we will see you in the new year. Goodbye.
Merry Christmas or Merry Holidays.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Have a good break.
Whatever it is you're up to. Have good fun. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.